I'm not your gossip girl, I'm the headline. Truth with a curve, baby, redefine. Welcome to the thirst trap. All the truth looks good in a tight wrap. We talk love, power, soul, and sin. Turn the world on, let the light in. Yeah, the thirst trap news. You'll drink it up, it's the real you. They betray the thirst bro news, where every headline's a revelation.
Hey, everybody. It is, what's today? Tuesday. So I hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday evening. Hope your day has gone well. Tonight, we're going to talk about the Kabbalah. We're going to talk about what it is, how it functions, what it's not, the myths behind what it is. Is it something scary? And is it important to understanding the world around us, to understanding how to exit the matrix? But before we do that, I did prepare an opening monologue for you guys. Most people think the Matrix is something that's out there, a system, a government, a screen, a machine, a villain. But the most effective prison was never built with walls. It was built with beliefs. A prison designed for your mind. Beliefs about who you are. Beliefs about what you're allowed to want, what you're allowed to question, what's normal, what's impossible, what's just the way things are. The Matrix is not a place. It's a state of consciousness. And tonight, we're not here to panic about it. We're here to decode it. Because thousands of years before we had algorithms, advertising, and mass psychology, ancient mystics were already mapping the invisible architecture of our reality. And they were warning us what happens when humans forget who they are. The map, one of these maps at least, is called the Kabbalah. Kabbalah doesn't ask you to believe anything blindly. It asks you to see. It starts with a dangerous idea that the world you experience is not the world as it truly is, but the world as it is filtered. Filtered through fear, through trauma, through language, through culture, through repetition. And once something is repeated long enough, it feels like truth, even when it's not. The first level of the Matrix is distraction, noise, endless input, outrage cycles, consumption disguised as fulfillment. The second level is identity. This label's handed to you before you ever had a chance to ask who you are. You were assigned one. The third level is fear, because fear keeps energy low, predictable, and easy to manage. Kabbalah calls the world the outer shell, the surface layer of reality where appearances dominate and essence is forgotten. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The Matrix doesn't survive because it's powerful. It survives because it's unquestioned. Kabbalah exists to question. At the heart of Kabbalah is the understanding that reality is structured, not randomly, not chaotically, but intentionally. That there is a flow, a pattern, a design. And when that flow is distorted by fear, ego, or unconsciousness, reality fractures. The ancients call this fracture imbalance. We call it burnout, anxiety, depression, rage, numbness, addiction, spiritual emptiness. Different words, same wound. Kabbalah teaches that divine energy, life itself, moves from an infinite source into the material world through a series of stages, filters, and vessels. Not to control us, but to partner with us, which means something radical. Human beings are not powerless in this system. Your thoughts matter, your words matter, your choices matter, especially the ones that no one sees. The Matrix tells you you're small, that you're replaceable, at the mercy of forces beyond your control. Kabbalah says the opposite. It says you're a conduit. That consciousness is creative, that intention shapes outcome, that awareness restores flow. This is why the soul feels restless in a world obsessed with surfaces. Why truth tellers feel out of place. and why awakened people often feel lonely before they feel free. Because the soul is the glitch in the system, in the matrix. It doesn't fully belong to the illusion. Kabbalah teaches that we incarnate not to obey the world as it is, but to repair it. This repair is called tikkun, the act of restoring balance where it has been lost. Not through rebellion fueled by rage, but through clarity, discipline, and alignment. Evil in this framework is not a monster. It's misdirected energy, blocked flow, and fear looping back on itself. And here's the part they never tell you. Evil collapses when it is no longer fed. No panic, no obsession, no unconscious reaction. The matrix runs on emotional extraction. Kabbalah runs on awareness. That's why the knowledge was once guarded, not to control people, but to protect them. Because awakening without grounding or mentorship fractures the mind. Power without wisdom inflates the ego. True freedom isn't waking up and feeling superior. It's waking up and feeling responsible. Responsible for your mind, your speech, your actions, your energy. You don't escape the matrix by fighting it. You escape it by outgrowing it. By seeing clearly, by choosing intentionally, by remembering who you are beneath the noise. Tonight isn't about secret societies or hidden enemies. It's about reclaiming sovereignty over your inner world. Because the moment you realize the system only works on people who don't know who they are, the spell begins to break. And that is where Kabbalah begins. So last night, we talked about Zionism, what Zionists really are, the difference between Jews, Judaism, being Jewish, and being a Zionist. It's really important to, battle misconceptions and keep truth in the forefront. So it's going to be another lecture tonight. And then tomorrow I will have a special guest with me for an interview on Wednesday. And it is going to be Sean Stone. I don't know if you know who that is, but that is Oliver Stone's son. Sean Stone is a filmmaker, director. And we're going to be talking tomorrow about the stuff that goes on inside Hollywood and politics. And so, yeah, that's what I have up for you tomorrow. And, of course, tonight we will end with Fan of the Day. So let me look in the chat and see who all is here. Hey, Cover Pros. Hi, Jack. It's good to see you. And let me check over in Rumble World. I don't see anybody yet. But as soon as I do, I will absolutely say hello as soon as you say hi to me. But yes, I got jam-packed full of great stuff. Okay. So, what is Kabbalah really? This podcast tonight is not to demonize Kabbalah because all religions are based upon the mechanics of the spiritual realm. So, what are spiritual mechanics exactly? Kabbalah, I'll just have to note, is not the same as the Cabal. The core difference here, one is spelled Kabbala, that's Kabbalah, and then there's the Cabal, Cabal. Kabbalah is an ancient Jewish mystical tradition and school of thought. The word literally means to receive or tradition. It focuses on understanding the divine nature of the universe and humanity's spiritual relationship with the Creator. The Cabal refers to a small group of people, usually political, who are united in some close design or secret plot. In modern usage, it often carries sinister connotations, and it's frequently used in conspiracy theories. So, for example, Jeffrey Epstein and a lot of them, that would be the Cabal. Those are Kabbalists, not the Kabbalah. And those two things innocently get confused. So how the two terms were diverged away from each other. The confusion exists because the Cabal was born out of a misunderstanding of Kabbalah's private nature. So the etymological root is so this is what it is. Because Kabbalah was historically an esoteric and secret study for elite scholars, the word evolved in European languages to describe any secret behavior or clique. Its popularization. The word cabal became famous in the 17th century England during the reign of King Charles II. His cabal ministry was a group of 5 ministers whose last names were Clifford, Arlington, Buckingham, Ashley, and Lauderdale. Coincidentally, they spell the word cabal. Modern usage today, cabal is often used as a dog whistle in anti-Semitic rhetoric to like basically accuse Jewish people of controlling world events, whereas Kabbalah remains more of a legitimate branch of spiritual mechanics. So I would disagree that identifying that people in the cabal that just so happen to be a lot of people made up of Zionists, I don't think that's anti-Semitic to just speak the truth. There's a difference between being racially hateful and speaking the truth. So I made a little chart for you here to kind of put it in a visual, because visuals always help me. So right here, so we have the meaning. Okay, so Kabbalah means to receive, which is tradition. Cabal means a secret political clique. Can you hang on a second, guys? The nature of the Kabbalah is spiritual and theological. The nature of the Kabbalah is political and conspiratorial. The goal of the Kabbalah is intimacy with the divine, and the goal of the Kabbalah is achieving power or influence. The practice of Kabbalah is meditation, prayer, and study. And the practice of the Kabbalah is intrigue, plotting, and secrecy. All right. So, let me hold on. There we go. All right. Let me check into the chat before we go any further. Okay. All right. Hey, Backwater. Good to see you. I am doing well today. I woke up with a god-awful migraine, and God, it slowly went away. The whole left side of my face was drooping, and my left eye was black. So if that had not gotten better, I would not have gotten on with you guys, because I just would have been in physical pain. My fibromyalgia has been terrible today. My whole left side of my body is in like deep pain. But it's okay. We keep trucking forward, you know? All right. So what are spiritual mechanics? It's really important to know and understand that sort of thing. If you're to understand that if the Cabal is doing baby sacrifices to Moloch and Baal and all that stuff, they clearly know God is real. They clearly know angels and demons are real. There's CERN. CERN is trying to open portals to change timelines because they're trying to get out of the timeline where the Antichrist loses and the Messiah wins and Armageddon comes. They're trying to shift reality. So they also understand the Cabal, the elite Cabal. If they understand that time and space is maybe not what the average person thinks of it as, we need to start acknowledging that it's real. And if spiritual practices are how they gain their power, and they have vilified that type of behavior, the committee of they, the powers that be, whether it is education, entertainment, or religion, what they've done is they've made you afraid to practice spiritually. They want you to just sit in a pew and be preached at, and to get on the ground and do acts of obeisance and many prayers. They don't want you to know the secrets to spiritual mechanics and how they work, because this is how they derive their power. So in order to protect yourself from them and also to bring further power from the light to help combat the evil that's going on in the world, you also need to understand spiritual mechanics and how to use them, and also just how to protect yourself. Those things are always super important. What they don't want you to know, where they don't want you to look, you look. All right, so let's get in to the first video on YouTube on spiritual mechanics.
Delve into the fascinating realm where science meets divinity. Quantum mechanics, a mystifying aspect of physics, carries secrets that baffle science. Could these enigmas outline the God's all-powerful existence? Imagine quantum entanglement, where distant particles influence each other instantly, defying our concepts of time and space. Could this hint at the omnipresence of a divine power? Consider intelligent design, where the universe's precision seems too complex for pure chance. Could this be the work of a divine architect? Ponder on theistic evolution, where God infuses life into nature's laws. Could this signify divine involvement in the universe's in this union of faith and science? We see God not as a contradiction to science, but its grand conductor. We invite you to explore the untapped realms of quantum mechanics and the upholding power of God. Delve into the fascinating realm where science...
Next video.
So I was learning things about quantum mechanics and things in physics that seemed a little strange to me, but I didn't really worry about it too much. And then eventually I decided I really wanted to study life. And rather than be a biologist, I wanted to study the chemistry of life. So I went into biochemistry, where I got my PhD. And what happened was that even in college, as a young man, I began to feel there was something missing in my life. And I later realized it was some sense of spirituality, which I think is very important for all people. But I found that, whatever that you want to call that, in science at first. I was thinking, well, you know, the science is great because it gives you a real sense of purpose, a real sense of doing something good in the world. So I was learning things about quantum mechanics and things in physics that seemed a little...
And for those of you just joining, I'll give you a little update. Tomorrow I will be having Sean Stone, who is Oliver Stone's son, on my podcast for an interview. He has a documentary out right now called The RFK Legacy. So we'll be talking about his documentary, and we will be talking about just the secrets, the things that go on behind closed doors in Hollywood and the government. All right, next video. This will be a familiar face to some of you guys.
What's interesting about quantum physics and theoretical physics, in my opinion, some people want to keep it separate, but it actually goes together with spirituality. When you're talking about spiritual concepts, those spiritual concepts, which were all imbued with divine spiritual energy inside of us, that is directly linked intrinsically to the quantum mechanics and the theoretical physics, because the theoretical physics, the quantum mechanics, supersymmetry, all those things really explain what's happening behind the veil that we can't see. Spirituality is an unseen thing. And so, but we know through our efforts of exercising it that real results happen. So how are real results happening in a three-dimensional world where we have the illusion of solidity? What it is that the spirituality and the divine nature of it is really operating behind the scenes based on the subatomic world. What's interesting about quantum physics and theoretical
y'all hear
physics...
me preach about that a lot, how quantum physics is really important to study if you want to start understanding how to get close to God and how to receive blessings and just work in tandem with the earth and universe we were made from. Here's the next video.
In other words, the quantum physics is the breakdown and understanding of spiritual energy and what's really happening when you're meditating, when you're focusing on things, when you're trying to manifest reality. All those things are really explained through quantum physics.
Yeah, well, it's you're that observer or the spooky
Spooky action at a distance. Yeah,
spooky action at a
Terrence
distance.
Howard.
Your observation of it, it affects things.
In other words, the quantum physics is the breakdown and understanding of spiritual energy and what's really happening when you're meditating, when you're focusing on things, when you're trying to manifest reality.
Okay.
All those things are really...
So basically, the Matrix isn't a movie. It's a state of consciousness. So we're going to get into that next. I've got 2 videos for you. Let me cue those up.
Did you know that the Matrix is actually based on ancient Gnostic secrets? When Neo wakes up in the movie and realizes that his world is an illusion, he's following a path that was described centuries ago by Gnostic mystics. According to their teachings, the demiurge creates a false reality, a cosmic simulation that keeps our souls trapped in a sleep. Sound familiar? Morpheus is the wise guide who helps Neo to awaken to the truth and see the real world that exists beyond the illusion. The agents in the movie are like the archons in the teachings, enforcing the rules of the Matrix and making sure that nobody escapes. So is the Matrix just a movie? Or is it a modern retelling of humanity's oldest spiritual battle? If you want to find out more about the secrets of the demiurge, Gnosticism, and the hidden Matrix that we all live in, then make sure to hit like, follow, and subscribe for more videos.
So I will be going over the Gnostics at some point. My own spiritual beliefs are some kind of blend between the Gnostics and Kabbalah, although I'm not Jewish, but you'll learn through this. You don't have to be Jewish to understand what the Kabbalah is trying to explain, because it's very much about nature and consciousness. And the Gnostics were the very first organized group that were Semitic, that were followers of Christ after his death, that really had the most accurate preservation of Jesus' teachings. And the Gnostics very much talk about the Matrix as something Jesus taught them about. And then during, after Jesus died and they were going around murdering everybody, they were going around and they all but wiped out the Gnostics. And the Gnostics had the Gnostic belief in the last 30, 40 years has been kind of making a comeback because of people searching for truth and knowing that they're even being lied to at church. So, and yes, Backwater, it is common to see things that seem to be like a glitch in the Matrix. Several times in my life, I've literally seen the sun blink on and off, flash on and off, like you're flipping a light switch. And for some reason, I was the only one that every time I'm around, it happens. There's other people around, but I'm the only one who sees it. And that just has to do with having an open pineal gland, etc. So let me go into the next video. What's wrong?
If reality is a matrix, who's behind it all? Most people believe our world was created by a loving God, but according to ancient Gnostics, it was built by a shadowy figure called the demiurge, the ultimate cosmic architect. Think of the demiurge as the villain in a movie, except he's not a person, he's a force. And his goal is to build a fake reality, a spiritual prison to keep you trapped and distracted from your true power. He's the one who created the rules of this world: pain, suffering, limitation, and forgetfulness. The Gnostics taught that this being doesn't want you to wake up. In fact, he wants to keep you asleep, because when you do wake up, you break free from his control. But here's the secret. You have a spark inside you that's not from this world. And awakening that spark is the first step to escaping the Matrix. Now, who helps the demiurge keep the illusion alive? Follow for the next short, where we reveal the
All right, so the Matrix, it's not machines or pods. Those in the movie, those were definitely metaphors. So the machines were like demons, and the pods was the prison that your consciousness is held in. It's an invisible architecture. It's when you're born. Kanye West talks about this type of thing, about the program. So when you're born into belief systems that you didn't choose. You actually inherit fears, and the Matrix are systems that train obedience over awareness. Most people in this world, they just live on autopilot. And Kabbalah exists because ancient mystics actually noticed this trap. So freedom does not come from escaping the world. It comes from seeing it clearly. So basically clearing the fog. When people hear the word Kabbalah, they think celebrities, red strings, or secret magic, but that's the cabal that they're thinking of. Kabbalah is not a religion. It's not spell casting, and it's not New Age, although New Age does borrow from it because, again, this is going back to spiritual mechanics. So the core definition is that Kabbalah is a mystical framework for understanding God, the universe, and the soul. So let's get into our next video here.
What is Kabbalah and what does it add to Judaism? The premise of the question implies that Kabbalah and Judaism are two different things, and that Kabbalah is coming to add something to Judaism. Kabbalah has been a part of Judaism since Judaism existed. Kabbalah is the deepest level of understanding the truths of the Torah.
So by default, there are some Western systems, Western belief systems that are going to carry some of the spiritual mechanics from the Semitic regions where Jesus is from over into Christianity, but they've changed all the wording, and we're going to get into that. They changed a lot of things and made you believe it's witchcraft. If you have any biases when it comes to Israeli politics, just set that to the side, because this is about not that. This is about freeing yourself from that beliefs, that system, because politics is part of the matrix framework. So just get past, this isn't about the Talmud. This isn't about Zionism. This is about something much deeper and higher. And the reason why it just so happens to be that Kabbalah is the foundation for Jewish belief system is because, well, look at the entire stories in the Bible. Everything started over there. When it pertains to Jesus and the 12 tribes of Israel and all this stuff. So this is kind of like piggying back off of yesterday, but showing you where to find the purity in the Semitic belief system. Where is the truth in the Jewish belief system? And that is what I am showing you. And when this is done, you're going to see how far away they've gotten from their belief system and from the truth, as citizens of Israel that have bought into a nationalist political movement. So this is beyond that. We've already covered all of that. So
there are different levels on which you can understand any of the stories or the laws. You could understand them on a practical level, or you can go deeper and understand the spiritual mechanics of it. That's the Kabbalah. What is Kabbalah and what does it add to Judaism?
I'll let it replay since I paused it.
The premise of the question implies that Kabbalah and Judaism are two different things, and that Kabbalah is coming to add something to Judaism. Kabbalah has been a part of Judaism since Judaism existed. Kabbalah is the deepest level of understanding the truths of the Torah. So there are different levels on which you can understand any of the stories or the laws.
True for all religions.
You can understand them on a practical level, or you can go deeper and understand the spiritual mechanics of it. That's the Kabbalah.
Yeah. So that's just their word for the spiritual mechanics of the universe. So this applies to just life. It doesn't matter if you're a Buddhist, a Catholic, a Mormon, a Jewish follower. It doesn't matter. This is just their word for that basic building block to life. And if, as we learned yesterday, if we are to be Christian and help bring people back to spiritual health, when we were talking about blessing Israel yesterday, the way you bless Israel is like, hey, don't commit genocide. That's actually blessing them because you're helping them stay in line with the divine order, the divine commandments. So, just want to make that clear. All right, next video.
What is Kabbalah? Well, to answer this question, we must start with what Kabbalah is not. Kabbalah is not the Jewish teachings, rituals, and customs that you learned in Hebrew school, but they are related. In case you missed it before, Kabbalah is the mystical and hidden aspects of Judaism. Imagine that Judaism was one big video game.
Round one.
Kabbalah would be like the super difficult to beat, super hard to find, big boss level that you can only get to once you've been playing like your entire life. Kabbalah has to do with the creation of the world and how we interact with it on its most mystical of levels. What is Kabbalah?
Right. So understanding what Kabbalah is and their structure, we need to know this if we're to help keep them, not tell them they can't be Jewish, but help keep them in line with the divine. And ourselves, because like I said, this is basic principles to lots of quantum physics we're going to go into.
Kabbalah, an ancient mystical tradition with origins as mysterious as the knowledge it holds. Some say it was adapted by early Semites in Mesopotamia. Others believe it was a gift from God to Adam himself. But what exactly is Kabbalah? Kabbalah is a spiritual, philosophical, and meditative system centered around the Tree of Life, a symbolic map with 10 spheres, or sephirot. Each sephirah represents an aspect of spiritual life, from wisdom and understanding to mercy and strength. The key to Kabbalah is finding balance within these 10 spheres, harmonizing each part of ourselves to align with divine truth. And while Kabbalah is rooted in Jewish mysticism, you don't need to practice Judaism to explore its teachings. Just like how you don't need to be Hindu to practice yoga.
Right.
Kabbalah transcends religion, offering wisdom for anyone seeking spiritual growth and enlightenment. The question is, are you ready to climb the Tree of Life? Subscribe for more ancient knowledge.
So it's interesting what they said here. You don't need to be Jewish to know and understand and use Kabbalah, just like you don't need to be Hindu to practice yoga. You don't need to be... So things like yoga, Tai Chi, those are things that I do. Those are another culture's practices that you can incorporate. You take all the spiritual mechanics. It goes right back to spiritual mechanics, and they're all telling you the same thing. Whether it's yoga or Tai Chi, which uses nature and the movements of understanding that energy you interact with energy, even unseen energy, and this. So it all goes hand in hand together. All right, last video on this topic.
Kabbalah can take an entire lifetime to master. So what I'm going to tell you is like the very tip of the iceberg. Iceberg, right ahead! Kabbalah is all about getting in touch with our spiritual side and looking beyond the material world. Kabbalah is about turning up the volume on our soul and down the volume on our body's primal urges. Think of it this way. We've got our body that's all like, give me pizza, let me eat snacks, and watch Netflix. And now you've got your soul that's like, I'm looking for deeper purpose here, knowledge, and genuine connections. According to Kabbalah, it's all about making the choices that align with your soul's purpose. Kabbalah can take an entire life.
All right. So where does Kabbalah come from? I'm going to anchor this historically so it doesn't sound made up or modern. It's rooted in Jewish mysticism. It emerged from Torah, oral traditions, and mystical texts like the Zohar. It's traditionally taught orally, so mentorship, it's taught to spiritually mature students because, again, this is something you can harm yourself with if you don't know how to protect yourself from the darker vibrations of quantum physics, the lower vibrations of quantum physics. And it's traditionally taught as an inner wisdom. It's not a public doctrine. This is an inner wisdom. This is wisdom of the consciousness on the conscious level. So people think conscious is being awake. No, that's not what conscious means. That's a byproduct of consciousness. Consciousness is your continuous connection to spirit. Consciousness is your spirit. So let's get into this next video.
Jewish Kabbalah,
The origins.
an ancient mystical tradition with roots in the Babylonian mystery schools. In the bustling city-states of ancient Babylon around the 4th century, a spiritual movement began to emerge. This movement, which would later evolve into the Jewish Kabbalah,
Okay.
an ancient mystic.
And so if you saw my previous episodes on, on Sundays where I'm going over ancient civilizations and human origins, we talk about how the Anunnaki passed down this knowledge first to the Sumerians, and the Sumerians passed it down to the Babylonians. Babylonians passed it to the Egyptians, and then the other Semitic people. And that's where we're at here in the spiritual conversation.
Jewish mysticism, known as Kabbalah, traces its origins to the early centuries CE, rooted in biblical and rabbinic texts. Early mystical works like the Merkabah literature, 1st 6th century CE, describe visionary ascents to heavenly realms, inspired by Ezekiel's chariot vision and other prophetic experiences. By the 12th century, mystical speculation flourished in Provence and Spain, culminating in the foundational text, the Zohar, traditionally attributed to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, but likely compiled in 13th century Spain by Moses de Leon. Kabbalists deeply explored the nature of God, the structure of the divine world through the Sephirot, and the process of creation, profoundly influencing Jewish ritual, prayer, and ethics. In the 16th century, Isaac Luria, the Arshe in Seift, revolutionized Kabbalah, introducing doctrines of tikkun, cosmic repair, the concept of divine exile, and reincarnation, Gilgul. Kabbalah significantly shaped Hasidism in 18th century Eastern Europe, emphasizing personal spiritual experience and joy in worship. In the modern era, Kabbalah has influenced both Jewish and non-Jewish spiritual movements, blending ancient symbolism with contemporary quests for meaning and universal spirituality.
All right. And now I got this video here for you.
How did Kabbalah begin? At the center of Kabbalah, and by that I mean an ancient mystic stream of Judaism, not this place in LA, at the center of Kabbalah is a book called the Zohar, which is a book that collects knowledge from even older Jewish mystical works. It looks at verses in the Bible and ideas in Judaism through the lens of the 10 Sefirot. Put simply, each of these Sefirot is a way to interact with an aspect of God. Through these Sefirot, the Zohar created new ways to think about lots of the Bible and really to think about Judaism in general, mystical ways. Now, the Zohar was written in the 13th century in a culture where there was both intellectual curiosity and deep religious fervor. In this culture, this was in northern Spain, on one hand, they were influenced by the teachings of Maimonides, who was a Jewish thinker with a Greek philosophical perspective. So he said, you can't ever know what God does, just what God doesn't do. In other words, you shouldn't ever assume God's actions have a direct effect on you. It's an intellectual way to approach God. And then they were influenced by Christian Europe's religious fervor. God has a direct effect on me. So how can God simultaneously have an effect and not have an effect? Mysticism's answer is there are multiple aspects to God. We can't interact with God, who is unknowable, let's say the Ein Sof, but we can interact with 10 constricted aspects of God, the Sefirot. A small group of people wrote about this in 13th century northern Spain. One was Nachmanides in his interpretations of the Torah, and the other was Moshe de Leon, who collected older texts that formed into the Zohar. These older texts focused on trying to understand some difficult sections in the Bible, like the logic behind creation, or the chariot vision of Ezekiel, the apocalyptic visions of Daniel. Notably, only a small group of scholars read any of the Kabbalistic texts, including the Zohar, as it was generally accepted that studying them might drive you mad. That is, until 250 years later. So, 60 years after the Spanish Inquisition, Isaac Luria and Spot entered the picture. To greatly generalize, at this time, Jews were in a down place. The whole focus of the religion was on living in the past and being sad about where we are now, not in Spain having fun. Luria had this revelatory idea to take the principles of Kabbalism found in the Zohar and evolve them. Instead of it mostly being about understanding the Sfirot, Kabbalism was now about collecting sparks. Luria said the world was originally a perfect vessel, but it was destroyed and it's up to us to collect all of the pieces. Each time we do a good deed, we're collecting these sparks and taking another step towards the Messiah.
Remember all this
For
for later.
instance,
Taking
the way a
another step
person
towards the
held a
Messiah.
Kiddush cup could create a spark, as holding it in a certain way showed off God's name. Lots of traditions Jews do to this day were created by Luria and people that followed him. Kabbalat Shabbat, for instance. So with Luria, instead of being sad about the past, suddenly Judaism was about looking towards the future and the hope of salvation by the Messiah. And these thoughts were wildly popular. It got people to follow many more traditions, and it significantly spread Kabbalah. It continued to grow.
You're not being quizzed, but when I do these lectures, I want to bring you accurate information. So I find source material that goes along with the old texts, not the new stuff, because it's getting worse in the last 10 years, what the Rockefellers and Rothschilds have done to our information highway and the available information. They have flooded it with nonsense. So I'm giving you something that's on a collegiate level at the moment. Y'all got to bear with me. I am in a massive amount of pain, deep nerve pain, deep in my skeleton, and my skin is hurting and itching. So just if I'm lacking in energy today, that is why. So
Until it brought about the Messiah. It brought about someone who claimed to be the Messiah, and this threw a major wrench in people's faith in the movement. So the story continues with this guy Shabtai Tzvi. He was a false Messiah. He was a person who almost brought down Judaism.
yeah. All right. So Kabbalah wasn't meant to replace scripture by any means, but what it does do is it helps you to decode it. So most people never actually wake up, and that's out of the matrix, and that's due to just human mistakes. So those mistakes are appearances for truth. They mistake appearance for truth. They mistake noise for knowledge, and they mistake authority for wisdom. And Kabbalah teaches that reality actually has layers to it, and that the physical world is an outer shell. That's only a third of what's really going on. And the matrix is the confusing shell for the source. So the key point here is that the first prison is actually perception. So what Kabbalah is actually trying to answer is, what is God made of? How did creation come into being? What's the soul? Why are we here this time? And how does human behavior affect the spiritual realms? Let me take a peek over here. Oh, Mac. Okay. No, you got to send it to me in a DM. I'm not going to see it in the chat. And I can't actually select anything in the chat from the production software. So hi, Irish. I hope you're doing well. So the core premise of Kabbalah is that reality is layered, and what we see is only the surface. It's only, a third of it. So let's get into our first video in how Kabbalah explains who God is. And I actually, there's a lot to Kabbalah I love because it is so You'll see. You'll see.
Does God exist? And if he exists, how come we can't perceive him or see him?
God is nature. It's simply everything there is. Meaning, it's the entire nature of this entire world and all the worlds. Everything there can be, even those things that we don't know about. All of this is a part of that concept called God.
Does God exist? And if he exists, how come we can't perceive him or see him?
God is nature.
All right.
It's simply
The next video. So you heard that God is nature.
If God created
what
us
is
humans,
nature? Well, go back to physics. Nature is the laws of physics, not just the birds and the trees and all that stuff. This is the law of physics, the law of reality, how everything is constructed.
in the universe, then who created God? Before creation, the Bible speaks of how God existed since the beginning of time, even with the angels seeing God creating humans. But the Kabbalah, one of the banned books from the Bible, which explains the book of Genesis origins, speaks of an existence that was before even divinity had formed. From this primordial source emerged 10 divine emanations, manifestations of wisdom, understanding, power, and the bridge between the spiritual and physical dimensions. This source wasn't created, but it chose to express itself through these elements so we would know him. The Kabbalah reveals that what we call God is actually the expression of an infinite, unknowable source that has always existed beyond time, space, and creation itself. If God created us humans in the universe, then who created...
Next video.
Jesus reveals the profound unity between man and God in his hidden teachings. Kabbalah shows that God is infinite, boundless in time and space. This means that only God truly exists. This was the essence of Jesus' true teaching. He never claimed to be God. When asked, he responded, "You say that I am." That was a clue to the real message. You. According to Jesus, the God is you. The true lesson is not separation, it's unity. You are not outside of God, you are part of God. Believing that Jesus is God, but you are not, is a misunderstanding. It is a misuse of the true teaching.
You guys have heard me say that many times. If Jesus is God, so let's break this down. If Jesus was God, can God die? No. Well, did Jesus die? Yes. And if God did die, who the hell resurrected him? He can't resurrect himself if he's dead. So that right there, you got to use common sense to decode the Bible. So when Jesus said the kingdom of God is in the heart of every man, and when all of us are just as much a part of God as he was as children of God. God, Jesus, the human being, was not God. God possessed Jesus to get his message out the same way the Antichrist is possessed by the devil.
Jesus came to show you that the divine is inside of you. That is the real hidden teaching. Visit our page to uncover more.
All right.
Jesus revealed.
So, Kabbalah is a tool. It's not a belief system. It is a tool to help you decode reality and hear the voice of God within you manifest. And one thing that people call like spells and, practice of magic and petitions and magic is the same thing as a prayer. And there's lots of things you do as Christians right now that are actually in the laws of physics considered magic. They just don't tell you that because what they've given you is very limited knowledge base about it, and then made you afraid of everything that connects you directly to your higher self and God. So Kabbalah decodes scripture, it decodes symbolism, it decodes human behavior, it decodes inner mechanics of reality, and it asks the question, who's running the program? The Matrix. Who's running the program? What inputs, data inputs, shape outcomes? And where does choice, free will, where does choice actually live? So Kabbalah doesn't tell you what to think. it shows you how the system works. So let's get into that a little bit.
In the beginning, but wait, what does beginning even mean? Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. But Kabbalah tells us something radically different. That the word Bereshit doesn't mean a point in time, but a point outside of time, a cosmic crown at the top of all creation, a realm of pure potential, the seed of all that is, was, and will be.
And in my third DMT trip, I went there. They took me there. I saw it. It was beautiful. I'll actually have to play it for you guys one day because my husband recorded it, but I did it, after my cousin died. So it was an interesting story there.
Before the heavens, before the earth, before even the concept of God as creator, there was only Ein Sof, the infinite, pure consciousness, boundless light.
So that was before a concept of God. Well, what is a concept of God? God is something that's worshipped. Okay. So before worship occurred, humans' nature just lived in tandem with the infinite, the all, the everything.
Not a being, not a personality, not a he, but that which is beyond all comprehension, undivided, undefined. And in order to create, the infinite had to contract. Tzimtzum, the first divine act, was not a command but a withdrawal. The infinite pulled itself back to make space for something other, something finite, something called you. Creation was not an explosion of matter, but an act of humility. The divine vacating a part of itself so the illusion of separation could exist.
Much like birth. So it talks about contracting. We're going to get into that ebb and flow of contractions later. All right, so next video.
Kabbalah teaches us that the purpose of the creation of the universe is that God desired to dwell in the lowest world with physical human beings in the confines of nature, thereby empowering spirituality and materialism to coexist. Every act of kindness we do reveals godliness in the world and leads up closer to the ultimate purpose of creation.
Okay, and then
Kabbalah teaches us that the purpose of the creation of the universe.
And as the Kabbalists say, each of us has been allocated a certain amount of divine sparks. And these sparks are scattered in your life. They're scattered in the places you'll travel to, the places you've lived and you will live. They're scattered in the...
All right, don't forget that term. Sparks, divine sparks. Transformers kind of hit on this a little bit, but we're going to keep going.
work you do, they're scattered in your opportunities, in your skills, in your personality, in the food you eat, in the people you meet, even the things that seem random and seeming almost trivial. Everything has sparks, everything has called spiritual opportunities. So not only, as I said, do we have to not be afraid, our job, our mission is, think of it as to gather these sparks and gather them, redeem them, reveal them, release them from their trap in their dark places.
All right, and release them from the trap of dark places. So these sparks are, in other terms you've heard, like your higher self in the karmic window coming back because you have a purpose and you have to figure out what that purpose is. So finding these divine sparks that are left around for the purpose of helping ascend out of the dark places that we're in now. And each person is responsible for finding their sparks because everyone put together doing so is what the righteous cleansing and the eternal state of righteousness is the result of every human doing that. So that's why the Great Awakening is so important that's going on right now. So the central map to Kabbalah is the tree of life. And this is where it gets really fun, okay? Because if you remember, the tree of life was mentioned in the Bible. But there was also another tree, the tree of knowledge. And so, you have that. Okay, so the tree of life. Not only is it the central map to Kabbalah, this is also the blueprint, behind the Matrix. The tree of life is the operating system of reality. The 10 Sephirot are stages of consciousness and channels of energy and filters between source and matter. So let me play a couple videos for you on that. I'm going to show you. You'll see what the tree of life looks like in this next video, and it's going to just be a brief overview of it. 2 videos or so.
Let's learn the 10 Sephirot of the Tree of Life. We start with Keter, which is the monad, the Godhead. This is the absolute unity of being, connected with the aces of the tarot. It descends into Chokmah, which translates to wisdom. This is the expansion of the universe and the sacred masculine. That is answered by Binah, the sacred feminine, and all of the universe's form, which pours itself into Hesed, translating to mercy. This is the merciful aspect of God in the universe and 3 dimensions. This is answered to by Geburah, severity. This is the challenging aspects of the universe and change. These 2 combine for Tiferet, which translates to beauty, which is the harmonious place of the universe. This is where Jesus and Buddha and everyone hangs out. That pours itself into Netzach, the desiring nature of the universe. This is our emotions, feelings, ambitions, which is balanced by Hod, the intellectual aspect of the universe. It funnels into Yesod, then Malkuth, which is where we are now. Let's learn the 10 Sephirot of the tree.
Now she said a little side comment there. This is where Jesus and Buddha hang out. They're ascended masters, and we talked a few shows back about the ascension of consciousness. So Jesus was not the only one who walked a life that was so righteous and so pure that he was able to ascend to the right hand of God. In fact, Buddha and those types of, it was one of them too. And Jesus was actually taught during that gap in the Bible that they left out, where Jesus just disappears. He was actually in, Eastern Asia and North America, learning these concepts from cultures that were more ancient than his own culture. And they were teaching him as a child these concepts of the tree of life. So let's get into the next video.
Wish life came with cheat codes? It does. 10 of them. They're the Sephiroth power cores on the universe's motherboard. Ready? Rapid fire. 1. Kether, the Big Bang moment. Say yes to existence. 2. Chokmah, lightning ideas crackling in your skull. 3. Binah, blueprint those flashes into strategy. 4. Chesed, a tsunami of opportunities. Ride it. 5. Geburah, the sword that slices excuses. 6. Tifereth, golden center, live your truth, shine bright. 7. Netzach, passion that outruns failure every time. 8. Hod, crystal logic, persuasive words, flawless comms. 9. Yesod, subconscious engine, program your habits. 10. Malkuth, cash out, turn all that energy into real-world results. Master these 10 gears and you transform thought into destiny. Next episode.
And this is what Jesus showed you how to master all 10 of these things. He demonstrated it very, very, very well. So the matrix happens when energy gets distorted, blocked, and inverted. Got one more video for you.
What if the universe was constructed using 10 divine emanations, 22 primordial letters, and a hidden code of 3s, 7s, and 12s? In the Sefer Yetzirah, it is written, 10 Sephirot of nothingness, 22 foundation letters, 3 mothers, 7 doubles, and 12 elementals. These are not mere words, they are the fundamental principles of creation. But how do these ancient teachings intersect with modern cosmology? What do they reveal about the holographic fabric of reality? Delve into the mystery.
All right, so just to pause that, remember numerology in the Bible is a huge thing. 3 that they mentioned 3, 7, and 10. 3 represents a triune state, so a tiebreaker. It represents 7 represents completion, and 10 represents perfection.
Follow Mysticism Decoded and read the full exposition on Substack. Link in bio.
All right, so oops, I forgot to give y'all video on that. My bad. The tree of life is what reality looks like before it's corrupted by fear. So let me show you what that looks like right here. This is the tree of life, an older photo. Okay. This is much more, in the Bible talks about a literal tree. There is roots there, you see, at the bottom, underneath the 10th footstool, the 10th. And then you have more of a diagram here. 1, the crown being divinity. 2, wisdom, the right hand pillar, so the right hand of God. 3, intelligence is your left hand, left brain, more logic, right side, right brain, more creative. 4 is mercy. 5 is judgment. 6 is beauty. 7 is victory. 8 is glory. 9 is foundation. And 10 at the footstool is the kingdom, which is earth. All right. So, the Sephiroth those are divine attributes or emanations of God. Those are what comes naturally of God. The Sephiroth they're not gods themselves. Those are aspects of God's energy. Okay, so God isn't justice. There's not a God of, he's the divine. When it comes to the divine, the only thing that the Bible describes that God is love, but it says everything else is an aspect or an emanation or an attribute of God. So God has wisdom, God has understanding, God has mercy, strength, beauty, etc. The only thing that God would be infinity and love. So the tree of life is a map of consciousness, not just theology. The Matrix left out the Kabbalah, which precedes Genesis. And basically, the Matrix changed the tree of life in the book of Genesis to like a literal tree. Now, we know a fruit doesn't grant this kind of knowledge. The knowledge you gain from fruit is how it nourishes you, what it tastes like, what it looks like, what it smells like. So the tree of life held 10 fruits or keys. And this is what Yahweh did not want Adam and Eve to understand. Remember, he told Adam and Eve that they have free will, but you're not to eat of this tree. So it was gate kept. That knowledge was gate kept for the Elohim. So now remember, however, the one that the Bible calls Satan and the devil, he's the one that came to Adam and Eve and said, wait a minute, you're made with parts of us. Why does he not want you to know what we know? And don't forget that the one the Bible calls Satan lost the battle, and the victor, as we know, always rewrites the story. Let me check on my Rumble connection here. Always. Uh-oh. Uh-ohs. Okay. So going back to what I was saying, the victor always rewrites the story. So because that's always been the case, we should examine everything with a critical mind. Even the Apostle Paul told us to do so. He told us to question the scriptures themselves as to test your faith, because they knew what was going to happen to Jesus' teachings. They knew it was going to get jacked up, molested, defiled, and used for their own personal gain. So let's find out what Yahweh was trying to keep away from Adam and Eve, and what the Bible claims Satan betrayed his brother Yahweh over. So let's get into our first video. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into each one of those 10 keys and what they reveal.
Kether, meaning crown, is the first and highest sphere on the tree of life, representing the ultimate source of divine light and the purest state of being. It is the point of origin from which all creation flows, embodying the infinite and unknowable essence of God. Kether is beyond human comprehension, symbolizing the unity of all things and the limitless potential of existence. Often described as the crown, because it sits above and beyond the other spheres, Kether is the bridge between the unmanifest divine and the manifest world. It is associated with the concept of divine will, the initial spark of creation that sets everything into motion. Kether contains all possibilities within it, but remains formless and undifferentiated.
There's a big, huge misconception about Lucifer. Number one, we'll talk about that another day. And not all of the fallen angels are cursed and condemned. Some of them regretted what they did. But also, the typical story in Christianity makes you look at them as villains. So the fallen angels, this goes right back to what secret were they trying to keep away from the humans? Okay? Because humans were under slavery by Yahweh. That's a fact. They tried to vilify every single human being or ethereal creature that tried to free humans from slavery by a higher order being. So you need to really question the narrative you've been taught on these matters, because it's not all true. Angels can become demons and demons can become angels. That's a fact. It's not they are the same species. It's their purpose. What are they doing? What side are they choosing to be on? Some of the fallen, the Watchers, were actually trying to help Noah and the humans survive the wrath of Yahweh, who was Anunnaki. And literally, Yahweh wanted to kill everyone because literally he said, they're just being too noisy and they're bothering my ears. If you actually truly pay attention to Yahweh in the Hebrew scriptures, he's a very, very, very violent and jealous and vengeful God. But Yahweh is not the creator of all, the universe. That is what we're discussing now. So as you can see at the top of this tree, anything below the divine, any God below the divine is a lesser God, not the God. All three letters capitalized, capital G, capital O, capital D. In proper linguistics, any lesser God than the divine is capital G, O, D, and then when you're referring to them just as a group, it's just G-O-D or G-O-D-S, because God, what a God is two things: one that is worshipped and one that is a creator. Then there's something above that, how all of reality exists. So let's get back to the video.
Differentiated. This sphere teaches the profound mystery of existence and the interconnectedness of all life. It reminds us that everything originates from a single, unified source, and through spiritual practice and contemplation, we can glimpse this divine oneness, aligning ourselves with the infinite wisdom and purpose of the universe. Kether, meaning crown, is the first and highest sphere on the tree of life, representing the ultimate. Chokmah, meaning wisdom, is the second sphere on the tree of life and represents pure, unbounded creative energy and the first impulse of divine will. It is the dynamic force that initiates creation, embodying the spark of inspiration.
It doesn't necessarily, Mac, great question. Would that be a false prophet? No, a prophet is someone who foretells and the knowledge is downloaded onto them by the divine. It's a great question. Not all gods are false. Just because Barack Obama is a god, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, LeBron James, because people will do anything they say and they idolize them. So a god is anything that is idolized and has power and can create. There is a distinction between the Almighty God and then Yahweh, who is a significant ethereal being, and so on and so forth.
And the raw potential from which all things emerge. Chokmah is associated with the masculine principle, symbolizing the active, expansive power that drives life and growth. As the counterpart to Bina, understanding, Chokmah provides...
So Jesus, Buddha, they would be still gods, but lesser gods, earned kingship, ascended masters, that type of a thing. Jesus, what sets Jesus apart is that he, through the consciousness of the divine, became a ransom sacrifice and the savior to human beings with this whole entire fight that we're talking about, and was rewarded with kingship and divinity circa the human year 1914.
Provides the seed of ideas and energy that Bina shapes into form. Together they represent the balance of force and form, creativity and structure, which is essential for the process of manifestation. Chokmah is often linked to intuition and flashes of insight that transcend logical thought, offering a direct connection to higher wisdom. This sphere teaches that wisdom comes not from accumulated knowledge, but from direct experience and connection to the divine source. Chokmah is the flow of life itself, reminding us to embrace the creative energy within and channel it toward meaningful growth and understanding. Chokmah, meaning wisdom.
Okay. If production is listening, is our Wi-Fi booster on? Because I just had to lower the resolution for Rumble. All right, so let's get into the third one.
Bina, meaning understanding, is the third sphere on the tree of life and represents the power of insight, comprehension, and the ability to discern deeper truths. It is the sphere of structure and form, where the boundless energy of Chokmah, wisdom, is given definition and limitation, shaping the raw creative force into a coherent framework. Bina is often associated with the divine feminine, symbolizing the womb from which all creation emerges. It is linked to intuition.
It's not cut off. The video... Hold on, are you saying that the Instagram feed is cut off or the video is cut off? Because I got video on Instagram, but no, the video is not cut off in Instagram. It's showing you, it can't zoom, it's showing you the third point on the chart.
Introspection and the process of making sense of complex or abstract concepts. In Bina, we encounter the duality inherent in existence, light and dark, life and death, and gain the wisdom to navigate these contrasts. This sphere is also known as the Great Mother, or Supernal Mother, emphasizing its role in nurturing spiritual growth and guiding the soul toward higher understanding. Bina teaches that true understanding comes through experience, reflection, and the acceptance of life's inherent limitations, which ultimately lead to greater wisdom and spiritual maturity. Bina, meaning understanding, is the third sphere on the tree of life and represents the power. Chesed, meaning mercy or loving kindness, is the fourth sphere on the tree of life. It represents expansive, unconditional love, generosity, and the boundless flow of divine energy. Chesed embodies the creative force that nurtures and sustains life, reflecting the compassionate aspect of the divine that seeks to give and uplift without...
Happiness. What I'm saying is the definition of a god is something or someone that is idolized. People idolize other human beings. They have power to control other people. There's multiple definitions to God, so just look it up and you'll understand exactly what I'm meaning.
Without limitation. This sphere is associated with growth, abundance, and the power of forgiveness. It's the source of inspiration for acts of charity and benevolence, symbolizing the principle of giving without expecting anything in return. Chesed balances the strict discipline of Gevurah, judgment, its counterpart.
There are gods that are evil. There are gods that are good. There are gods that are human. There are gods that are all kinds of gods. Ethereal. There's the almighty God, the creator of all the known universe. And then there's the lesser gods on down, all the way to the earth realm. People idolize LeBron James, like sports players, musicians, rock stars. I mean, people will throw themselves in front of moving buses for Michael Jackson, Prince, etc. You understand the concept that I'm trying to explain to you.
Ensuring that justice is tempered with compassion. Chesed teaches us to open our hearts, embrace others, and act as conduits for divine grace. It reminds us that true strength lies in kindness, and that through love and generosity, we align ourselves with the flow of creation, fostering harmony and spiritual expansion. Chesed, meaning mercy or loving kindness.
I don't mean to say, if I sound bitchy, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be. I'm just a massive amount of pain today. So I'm just trying to tolerate being alive today. All right, let's go to the 5th circle on the tree of life.
Geburah, meaning strength or judgment, is the 5th sphere on the tree of
Yes, Seth, that is very close to what they're saying because we are creators ourselves. We have a lot of the same abilities within our own realm, and we are just made partly genetically from the Anunnaki DNA. So you got to do research on who the Anunnaki and the Elohim are. I have that on my channel as well. If you go through the tiles on Rumble, you'll see me give lectures about that. So, I mean, where we're at right now at this point, for anybody who doesn't understand, we're very deep into it. So you've got to go back to a lot of my previous shows because I have to keep the show moving forward. I can't answer every question, but I'll try to answer what I can.
Of life, and represents discipline, restraint, and the power of boundaries. It is the force of severity that provides structure and limits, essential for balance and justice. Geburah is the sphere where the unchecked energies from the higher realms are tempered and refined, ensuring that they don't become overwhelming or destructive. Often associated with the qualities of courage and rigor, Geburah is the principle of discernment, giving us the ability to make tough choices and set necessary limits. It's the counterpart to Chesed, mercy, the 4th sphere, with which it forms a dynamic of compassion and discipline. This interplay between Chesed and Geburah keeps us balanced, as Geburah's discipline checks Chesed's generosity, preventing excess and guiding us toward fairness and integrity. Geburah teaches that true strength involves not only action, but also the wisdom to refrain and restrain, creating a foundation for justice. It serves as a reminder that limitations and boundaries are not obstacles, but tools for personal and spiritual
That's very
growth,
important right there.
fostering resilience.
Limitations is information.
And inner strength. Geburah,
All right.
meaning
Information to
strength
help you overcome,
judgment,
be stronger.
is the 5th sphere.
Not always negative. Here's the 6th
Tifereth,
sphere.
or beauty,
In the center.
is the
So
6th
I want to
sphere
pause
on the
this
tree
right
of-
here. Now, interestingly, I want you to notice that the 6th sphere, okay, being beauty, look at all roads from the other spheres go right to that center sphere. Okay? You see that? Because all of these things put together out equal beauty. And you see that just in our choices. We choose our eyes, we are made in God's image. God appreciates beauty. That's what we love. Our eyes seek out beauty, and everyone has a different definition of beauty, but all of these attributes, all roads lead to that 6th sphere of beauty. It's not just something on the outside, the physical. It's when you're looking at a mountainscape, it's not just because your one sense is looking at it saying it's pretty, maybe in a photo, but if you're there in nature, in a prairie, looking, in a valley, looking at a beautiful mountainscape, all of your senses are engaged. And you realize a lot about that moment. You see strength in the mountains. You see splendor in the spread. You see the majesticism of creation itself, and it's a fully immersed experience. So this is why all of these spheres lead to the center of to the sixth one, called beauty.
Life, and serves as the heart of the tree, representing harmony, compassion, and balance.
We're not saying it's not made by God. What we're saying is that God possesses all of these. So how could mankind design that if not made from God? I don't know exactly what your question is asking, but mankind, we behave very similar to the personified. We are the personification of God consciousness. So it's coming from God, procreated by us through God. So, we get into consciousness a little bit into this. So y'all just kind of hold your questions a little bit, because you really need to focus on what this is saying. This is not easy to understand, and you really need to focus, because you'll be very confused if you don't. A lot of your questions that are being asked are going to be answered. What I know is not particularly covered in this outline, I will try and answer, but we have to really, this is so key and fundamental.
Is the sphere of the soul, where higher divine influences blend with human experience to create a sense of unity and purpose.
Oh, thank you, Jack.
Embodies the concepts of love, truth, and inner beauty, acting as a mediator between the emotional drive of Netzach and the intellectual structure of Hod, balancing their energies into a harmonious whole. Tifereth is often associated with the sun, symbolizing warmth, enlightenment, and the center of spiritual and personal growth. It is where the individual self and the divine intersect, leading to self-knowledge and the realization of our deeper purpose. In this sphere, we find both self-identity and empathy, recognizing ourselves as part of a greater unity. Tifereth thus becomes the axis that links the upper ethereal spheres with the lower, earthly ones.
There you go.
Bridging heaven and earth.
You are the bridge between all these realms. This is very profound. I hope you guys are digesting what this is saying. You, that sixth sphere, that is you.
And reminding us that true beauty and harmony lie in aligning with our higher selves and universal truths. Tifereth,
all right, let's get into
beauty, is the sixth sphere on the tree of life and serves as the heart of the tree, representing harmony, compassion. Netzach, or victory, is the seventh sphere on the tree of life and represents emotion, passion, and the driving force of desire. Netzach embodies the raw, instinctual energy that fuels our creativity and connects us deeply with beauty, art, and nature. Unlike Hod, which focuses on logic and structure, Netzach is more about feeling and experience.
And look, it's giving you scripture right there. Scripture. My brain, y'all. So palm, hand. I might need to do another episode on a way deeper dive on the tree of life, but I'm trying to give you the cliff notes.
Experience, symbolizing the power of intuition, inspiration, and the pursuit of personal expression. Netzach is linked to endurance and the will to overcome obstacles, driving us to pursue goals and ideals with unwavering passion. It's often associated with Venus, reflecting love, beauty, and the appreciation of life's pleasures. Together with Hod, it creates a balance of feeling and thought, desire and restraint. This partnership feeds into Yesod, where their energies are harmonized and prepared for manifestation. Netzach reminds us that true victory lies in the pursuit of meaning and beauty, allowing us to connect deeply with life's creative and emotional forces. Netzach,
divine feminine,
or
all right,
victory,
so let's get into intuition.
Is the seventh sphere on the tree of life
This is your sixth
and
sense.
represents emotion. Hod, meaning splendor, is the eighth sphere on the tree of life and represents intellect, logic, and the power of language. It's where mental structures and forms are created, giving order and coherence to our thoughts and perceptions. Hod is often associated with analytical thinking, learning, and the capacity to understand patterns, making it the sphere of science, mathematics, and disciplined thought. In Hod, ideas and emotions from higher spheres become clarified and structured, giving rise to knowledge that can be expressed and communicated. It's paired with Netzach, the seventh sphere, creating a balance between intuition, Netzach, and reason, Hod. Together they form a...
Sorry, I said that wrong. That's what I meant to say, was this connects the logic to the intuition.
Feedback loop between instinct and analysis, emotion and thought, which feeds into Yesod, where these refined energies take form on the astral plane.
Where emotion and
Hod,
thought
in this sense,
meet up.
serves as a foundation for translating spiritual insights into coherent concepts, making it crucial for understanding and navigating both inner and outer worlds. Hod, meaning splendor, is the eighth sphere on the tree of life and represents intellect. Yesod, the ninth sphere on the tree of life, is
that
often
moon
known
right
as
there?
the foundation and represents the subconscious, imagination, and the bridge between the physical and spiritual realms. It's connected to the astral plane, where thoughts, dreams, and symbols take form before manifesting in the material world, Malkuth. Yesod acts like a filter, translating the higher energies of the spheres above it into forms that can be understood and eventually experienced in our world. This sphere is tied to intuition, instincts, and the fluid, shifting nature of the mind. It's sometimes associated with the moon, symbolizing reflection, change, and the cycles that influence our inner and outer lives. In Yesod, we encounter the archetypes and symbols that shape reality on a deeper level, and it's through our connection to this astral plane that we can understand and influence the physical world in Malkuth. Yesod, therefore, is the foundation of creation, where spiritual energies gain shape and definition before becoming reality. Yesod, the ninth sphere on the tree of life, is often known as the foundation. Malkuth, or the kingdom, is the 10th sphere on the Kabbalistic tree of life, representing the material world and the culmination of divine energy into physical form. It's often depicted as being split into 4 sub-elements: earth, water, air, and fire. This division reflects the foundational elements of the material universe, each symbolizing different aspects of existence. Earth for stability and structure, water for emotion and flow, air for intellect and communication, and fire for transformation and energy. These 4 elements represent the ways divine energy becomes grounded in our world, forming the basis of all physical and spiritual experiences. Malkuth is unique because it embodies both the lowest level of divine emanation and a gateway back to higher realms, reminding us that even in the material world, there's a connection to the divine. It's also the bride of the higher sphere, Yesod, emphasizing that Malkuth is not separate from the spiritual, but an integral part of it, where all divine influences converge and manifest. Malkuth.
Okay. So, knowing that this is what Yahweh was keeping from the humans, the one that they call Satan, was he, so with all of that true in consideration that this is what the tree of life and the fruit of the tree of life bared and what Yahweh did not want them to have, and then later the Bible writers call this one Satan that comes to Eve and says, wait a minute, why does he not want to? Do you think, this is just a ponderment, okay, just a wondering question, do you think Satan was truly labeled correctly as the devil? There's a few episodes back on my Nightcap series where we talk about who Yahweh and Satan actually is, Enki and Leo. Yahweh and Satan were brothers. Maybe, just maybe, somebody purposely confused us on who the devil truly is. Misdirection. Just like they misdirect you to believe that Jesus is the God, the creator, because he's not the creator. He is our God. He is our savior. He is our king. That is absolutely sure. We are absolutely sure without a doubt that he has heavenly kingship over the earth. But there's a lot of misconception that he is the God. All right. But if he was the creator, he couldn't die on the stake. I mean, it just literally is impossible. And if God did die, then who resurrects God? You see what I'm saying? All right. So the flow of divine energy. So God, as explained by the Kabbalah, not Cabal, two different things. One is evil, the other is not. God's infinite light would be the Ein Sof. Okay, so we're going to watch 3 videos on the Ein Sof, and then we're going to watch 3 videos about how creation happened through contraction and flow, much like birth, contraction and flow, contraction and flow. So let's start with our first video on Ein Sof.
Before the heavens, before the earth, before even the concept of God as creator, there was only Ein Sof, the infinite.
The devil is the dark force that exists in nature, just like God exists. So you have to go back to the law of duality. Okay? You cannot define good without evil. Evil without good. You can't define one without the other. Now, a devil is created for sure, but a devil has many definitions, just like the term God. So there's the God and then there's the devil. And when you get into physics, you learn that one is the light force, the other is the dark force. Now, Satan, if you actually, just like Yahweh, there's lots of misrepresentations, a lot of trickery, smoke and mirrors. I'm not saying to worship the devil. I'm not saying anything like that. So remove all your emotions. Normally we get along pretty good, and you've heard me talk Primo empowered many times. So the fact that you're misreading me right now, don't let the devil's machinations get to your head right now.
Infinite, pure consciousness, boundless light. Not a being, not a personality, not a...
No, Seth, Mac is a good... Mac won fan of the day yesterday. Mac's a listener. He's just being silly. Primo, I don't know what your deal is, man. You're just going to have to deal with it, or you can get out of you can just not watch my live stream, or I'll just let the Troll Patrol handle you.
He, but that which is beyond all comprehension, undivided, undefined. Before the heavens, before the earth, before even the concept of God as creator, there was only Ein Sof, the infinite, pure consciousness, boundless light. Not.
All right. So now let's get into the next video of what God is according to the Kabbalah.
In the mystical heart of Judaism, before all creation and all biblical narrative, there exists only Ein Sof, the endless, limitless, and unknowable divine essence. It is a reality so absolute it cannot be described, for to describe it is to limit it. For creation to begin, Ein Sof had to perform an act of tzimtzum.
What Primo is late to the party on is how we set the foundation for this show. What we are doing is studying the mechanics of the spirit realm. This has nothing to do with religion. This has nothing to do. All cultures have an explanation for spiritual mechanics, and we are doing the Semitic version because the last 3 days we've been clearing up a lot of misconceptions between Israel, the Jewish people, and Zionists. And this is very important because I feel that the Jewish people need to have someone to advocate for the difference between the evil tentacle of Zionism and their connection to nature. They have every right to understand spiritual mechanics just like anybody else in the world. I tell what spiritual mechanics are from the standpoint of Buddhists, from Taoists, from Christians, from all cultures, because like my listeners have shown, knowledge is not evil. Knowledge is power. And what is gate kept from us is what we need to understand. So the purpose of tonight is to help you break free from the matrix and get down past the noise, past the programming that was put onto you at birth, where you aren't able to choose what country you're from, what religion you're born into, who your family of origin is, and get into your unique connection to God via the mechanics of spirituality.
Or divine contraction, creating a conceptual
Seth, chill out on Mac. Seriously, for real. If you want to pick on somebody, you need to look at Primo right there.
Space for the cosmos to exist. This is a metaphysical parallel to the singularity in physics, a point of infinite potential from which our expanding universe emerged.
Seth is just fiercely
An
protective
act
of me. I love him for that.
To make room for being. In the mystical heart of Judaism,
let's get into
before
this one.
all creation and all biblical
I'm gonna let
narrative,
this play again because I paused it.
there exists only Ein Sof, the endless, limitless, and unknowable divine essence.
Seth.
It is a reality so absolute
It's all right, Mac. Seth apologized. He got confused on who you were talking to. He was going after Primo, not you, Mac. You're good.
it cannot be described, for to describe it is to limit it. For creation to begin, Ein Sof had to perform an act of tzimtzum, or divine contraction, creating a conceptual space for the cosmos to exist. This is a metaphysical parallel to the singularity in physics, a point of infinite potential from which our expanding universe emerged, an act of withdrawal to make room for being. In the mystical
In a realm beyond comprehension lies Ein Sof, the infinite essence in Kabbalah that defies definition. Within its boundless expanse, all things emerge from the nothingness, a profound paradox that challenges our understanding. Legends speak of Ein Sof as the source of divine light, a unity without form or limit. As seekers of truth, Kabbalists ponder this great nothingness to unfold the mysteries of creation. Every whisper of existence flows from its depths, uniting seen and unseen worlds. The void itself pulses with potential, revealing how absence can be the birthplace of all that is. Our journey through Ein Sof invites contemplation and awe, a reminder of life's sacred interconnectedness. Through this mystical quest, one embraces the vastness within, finding tranquility in the unity of the universe. In a realm beyond comprehension lies Ein Sof.
All right, so creation. God damn it, man, this fucking thing. All right, so creation happened through a contraction and a flow. Okay, everyone always was like, really, that's something we wonder about, right? So, like, you know, this is a good answer for it. If Mac is still on, Mac, you can move over to Rumble if you want. It's the same username on live over there. However, the Rumble servers are pretty spotty sometimes, so it can be glitchy. But Backwater says, good to know your target, bro. You was spraying and praying. That's funny. I get that one. All right. Producer Ryan, if you could go message Mac will remember and let him know Seth meant to send that to somebody else. He didn't mean to. He apologized as well.
Everything we see around us, trees and plants and minerals and rocks and animals and other people, when we look up and we see the sun or the moon or other stars, constellations, the entire cosmos is a projection or an outcome of a deeper, non-material reality that exists beyond space and time. That reality is like a thought or a program. Kabbalists refer to it as the thought of creation. Everything we see around us.
There was the Ein Sof, the infinite light, undifferentiated and beyond comprehension.
Yeah, that was the video, Seth.
From this boundless source, all creation emanated, though it remained hidden in potential, concealed within the Kesser, crown, where no form could yet be perceived. The Sephirot, the divine emanations, were not yet fully manifest, and the world existed in a state of pure chaos and potentiality. The Shokshma, wisdom of the divine, was about to overflow, but the Bina, understanding, had yet to shape it. The Ruach Elohim, the spirit of the Creator, hovered over the deep, ready to bring order from disorder, to shape and give form to what...
All right, so you heard that? Who are the Elohim? You've heard that term before, the Elohim, that those are the spirit of the Creator. So these are the archons that constructed the universe, that help, that the divine thought. So everything is, what this is saying is everything is a projection, a result of the divine's thoughts. And that the Elohim, the archangels, helped construct the 3D realm, okay?
What was formless. And the divine will, the Kav, the line of light, was directed into the void. From the depth of the darkness, God uttered the first speech, "Let there be light," and thus the Or Ein Sof, light of the infinite, manifested.
There you go.
This first light was not the physical light we know, but the primordial light, the light of creation thing. There was the Ein Sof, the infinite light, undifferentiated and beyond comprehension.
At the heart of Jewish mysticism lies the Zohar, a profound text that unveils the secrets of existence. Among its many teachings is a captivating creation myth depicting the cosmic dance of divine emanations. This narrative begins with the infinite light, known as Ein Sof, which existed before creation. In an act of profound love, Ein Sof contracted, creating a void to allow for the birth of the universe. This act birthed the 10 Sephirot, vessels of divine energy that channel creation. The Zohar illustrates how these emanations interact, ultimately weaving the fabric of reality. Through allegorical tales and esoteric wisdom, the Zohar invites seekers to explore their own divine spark within this cosmic tapestry, offering a pathway to deeper understanding. At the heart of...
So, I got an interesting story for you on the ebb and flow. So, I don't know if you know what DMT is. If you don't, do some research. But I was doing a breakthrough via DMT with shaman. And on my third DMT trip, my cousin who had passed the week before was like, "Hey, I'm going to show you something." He tethers me like an umbilical cord with this golden tether, and we rocket off the earth, like shredded up underneath me. I experienced death. We rocketed off the earth, out of this universe. I mean, I saw everything. I saw the Milky Way. I saw then it got smaller, and the universe was like a little inside a marble. Then there was like this empty space, and then there was like this glow world that like looked a lot like Nilfgaard, like, you know, glowing gnomes, and right there they got behind me, and just fairies, and like this spectacular realm. And I saw these fairies, and it was like a moving ball. I didn't know what it was at first, and they got closer to me, right? And I'm like, oh shit, those are fairies. And then this one little fairy comes out and jumps out of the big ball, like a swarm of fairies, and she comes and flies up to me. And, you know, I was getting really distracted in this like Nilfgaard type world. And she's like, "No, we only have so long." Cause you know, you only have like anywhere from 8 to 18 minutes in a DMT trip. She's just like, "Let's go, pay attention. We got somewhere to go." And my cousin's still with me, right? We go into another like blank space. So it was more like a waiting room. She's with me, just this one. And she's like right here by my eye, and between my eye and nose. And then we get to this place that was like, I would call it heaven in my words. It was flesh-colored, cloud-like, infinite. It had some sort of golden hieroglyphic scrolling on all the cloud-like fleshy structures. And I'm just like in awe. I felt something immediately once we got there. I'm just like, wow, I knew something was very different about this place. I didn't feel like anything I could relate to in my mind. I didn't know how to even process it at first. And I noticed that everything, the environment I was in, this cloud-like infinity was like contracting and expanding or whatever. And I'm just like observing this, and I'm just like, wow, what is this? And then the little fairy starts flying like this. She keeps doing this. flying in this like little letter J over and over and over. And I'm like communicated with her. I'm like, well, you hear me in the video go like, well, what do you want me to do? And she telepathically told me, I'm showing you to breathe with it. She's like a conductor. So she was telling me get in sync with it. So I start matching my breathing to this environment that's contracting and expanding. And once I got totally in sync with it, I realized, and you hear me say on the video, I have tears streaming and I'm like, I'm with God. I'm with God. And I didn't want to come back. I didn't want to leave. So just a little, for me, and this was before I ever even knew what Kabbalah was. And so once I learned this, their explanation of the fact that the divine is the all, the everything, and that creation is a contraction and a flow, a constriction and a release. Constriction is much like birth. I come out of this DMT trip, and the first thing I said to my husband, it's on camera, was, we are a product of God's thoughts. I swear to you. It was the most beautiful experience I have ever had in my life, and my fear of death and my fear of like, what the fuck is going on around here was totally gone. And I'm telling you, I was a person who drank every week, every other day, to now at most on Sundays during my nightcap edition, and I have one shot. And other than that, I don't even drink anymore. So those 3 DMT trips, I mean, really changed my symbiotic instinct, my instincts to be symbiotic with the experience of life. And I just started tolerating stress differently as well. And I noticed in the 3 weeks after each DMT trip, so in the first one, I heard cracking in my brain, which is the calcification of your pineal gland kind of breaking up. I didn't have much of it. It was just a slight little crack because I've always had spiritual talents and gifts. And so I've always had a strong pineal gland from birth, but fluoride in the water and vaccines and all these poisons that they just constantly funnel in our bodies, they deaden your pineal gland. So you lose your connection to God and your instincts. And I could hear like a little bit of a cracking noise. For other people, they hear it loudly. They can feel it. But for the 3 weeks preceding, whenever I was after the DMT trips, when I was I have chronic anxiety from just trauma as a child. And whenever I was having that feeling of anxiety coming up, I could taste the DMT in the back of my throat. My body, because of that release, was dripping a little higher concentration of its own DMT, and it was relieving my stress like I took an Ativan or something. So it is it's something I do if you need guidance on, I'm a spiritual mentor, and this is like one of the ways I help people, but it's something that you have to do in person, where it's, you have to have people with you to make sure that, you're good. And it's very different from doing like peyote or ayahuasca, or, because peyote is what forces you to face your demons. There's another one that takes you, that the Native Americans use, I fucking out what it's called. It takes you through like all your life, all your experiences you had in your past. And then there's DMT, which your body produces on its own anyway. And that is derived from the mimosa plant. You don't want the one from the frog because that's a toxin. But the ayahuasca it's a longer trip of DMT. So it takes you on a 12-hour ride. It helps you process your demons, make friends with your demons, process your traumas, and then it also takes you to God when you do the tea. The tea is intense. I did the vapor because I just wasn't ready to do a 12-hour ayahuasca retreat. Ibogaine is something that's rising, that's very good, that helps all of this naturally kind of, so all of those 3 things allow the knowing to come in to your brain. And your brain is really just your brain is just a radio that just receives the conscious from God. So what it does is it cleanses and provides maintenance for your radio antennas. So yeah. Okay, so let's get back to the way divine energy moves. So it moves from source, or the divine, or / God, it through the Sephirot, and into the physical world. And humans can act as conduits to this or blockages to this. Your thoughts, your words, and your actions, because we are made in God's image. We went over this yesterday or the day before. Your words, spelling, that is manifestation. God said, "Let there be light," and use his hands. So you can say things in your mind quietly, or you can say them out loud. So your thoughts, your words, and your actions either let light move through you as a tool for the light, or you can stop the light because you're lower vibrating, darker, and your higher self is lower vibrational and darker, more malevolent. So you can stop it. So that would be the demiurge in terms of Gnosticism, kind of drowning out that light. So how the matrix feeds on your consciousness, causing unconsciousness. So we're going to get into that video now. This video is a little long. It's 11 minutes. So buckle down. I'm going to get to the chat.
Hello, and welcome to the Matrix. The Matrix is an illusion, but it's also the only reality. The Matrix is more of a spell made of data and consciousness, a spell of hypnosis and awakening. How does this spell work? Perhaps it's because the laws of nature are habitual. The concept of the Matrix extends far beyond its popular cinematic portrayal. Rather than a digital simulation, our reality exists as an intricate web of data and consciousness, a vast field of information that shapes existence through the twin forces of habit and awareness. This matrix manifests as a spell that hypnotizes and awakens, binding us to patterns while offering the potential for liberation. One way to explain this matrix is Dr. Rupert Sheldrake's theory of morphic fields, which provides a compelling framework for understanding this phenomenon. These morphic fields function as repositories of collective memory and information, guiding biological formation through mechanisms that transcend the limited data contained within DNA itself. Most provocatively, Sheldrake suggests that what we consider immutable laws of the universe may actually be cosmic habits, patterns that strengthen through repetition rather than fundamental rules written into reality's foundations. This modern scientific framework echoes ancient wisdom traditions that have long recognized the existence of collective consciousness and mass hysteria and hypnosis. In Hindu philosophy, particularly in Vedantic texts, the concept of Maya describes a cosmic illusion that veils ultimate reality from human perception. Maya creates what the Upanishads call a dreamlike state of collective hypnosis, where humanity mistakes the phenomenal world for ultimate reality. This parallels Gurdjieff's concept of hypnotic sleep and modern theories about morphic fields. We'll get to Gurdjieff's concept in a moment. Zen Buddhism approaches this phenomenon through the concept of delusion, or mayoi, describing how collective mental patterns create a shared dream state that obscures our true nature. The Zen emphasis on breaking through habitual patterns of thought through meditation and koans serve the same function as Gurdjieff's self-observation practices, disrupting automatic patterns to achieve awakening. Recent scientific research also lends credence to these ancient insights. Studies in neuroscience, particularly through fMRI research, have demonstrated how human brains synchronize during social interaction, creating shared neural patterns. The discovery of mirror neurons suggests a biological basis for collective behavior and shared consciousness. Research into quantum entanglement and non-locality provides potential mechanisms for understanding how consciousness might be connected across space and time, as suggested by morphic field theory. This perspective aligns with discoveries in quantum physics and information theory. The mathematical patterns governing information theory mirror those of thermodynamic entropy, suggesting a fundamental unity between information and energy at reality's deepest levels. Matter itself emerges as energy's inverse expression, completing a trinity of energy, data, and consciousness that comprises our universe. These morphic fields penetrate and attune with the material world, creating an underlying matrix of information that shapes our perception and experience, and even matter itself. Mass hypnosis finds further scientific support in studies of social conformity and collective behavior. Research in social psychology, from Ash's conformity experiments to studies of mass movements, demonstrates how easily individual consciousness can be subsumed into collective patterns. Recent research in epigenetics supports the idea that behavioral patterns can be inherited across generations, providing a biological basis for what mystical traditions have long called ancestral or karmic patterns. The emerging field of consciousness studies has begun to bridge the gap between ancient wisdom and modern science. The integrated information theory of consciousness, proposed by Giorno Toloni, suggests that consciousness is intrinsic to information integration, aligning with Buddhist concepts of interdependence and modern theories about the information-based nature of reality. The manifestation of these fields extends into human social dynamics as evidenced in Robert Greene's analysis of power relationships in the 48 Laws of Power. These laws represent recurring patterns of human behavior and social manipulation that have persisted throughout history. Gurdjieff might question the precise enumeration of these laws. He acknowledged that approximately 48 laws govern the earthly plane, directly influencing our psyche, habits, and automatic reactions. These 48 laws could not be exactly enumerated because it is different for every individual. Gurdjieff thought that you had to struggle with these laws in order to truly understand what they were for you as an individual. These laws of power simply operate as part of the matrix structure, creating predictable patterns in human behavior and social dynamics. They represent another layer of the mechanical patterns that Gurdjieff observed in human consciousness, contributing to what he called our hypnotic sleep. The very predictability of these power dynamics demonstrates how deeply embedded these patterns are in the collective unconscious.
So just like there's a collective consciousness, there's a collective unconsciousness. That's the darker realm. The people who've basically been mind snatched by the devil.
The connection to consciousness becomes particularly evident when examining Carl Jung's concept of the collective unconscious and its archetypes. The recurring patterns Jung identified across cultures and time periods may represent manifestations of these morphic fields, a shared reservoir of memory and meaning that influences human psychology and behavior. This unconscious dimension creates what Gurdjieff termed a hypnotic sleep, a state between waking and dreaming, where humanity unconsciously repeats patterns and submits to the law of accident. Breaking free from this matrix requires conscious effort and sustained practice. Gurdjieff advised his students to struggle against their mechanicalness, challenging habitual patterns and ego impulses to develop self-observation and self-remembering. Through this process of self-observation and self-remembering, one begins to understand the laws operating within oneself, gradually gaining independence from them. This awakening represents a transition from the law of accident to what Gurdjieff called the law of fate, a state where individuals' will aligns with the universal will. The recognition of these laws serves a dual purpose in the awakening process. First, it reveals the mechanical nature of much of human behavior, showing how predictably people respond to certain situations and manipulations. Also, it provides a framework for the understanding of the patterns we must transcend in order to achieve true consciousness. By studying these laws within ourselves, we can better recognize their operation and others, using this awareness as a tool for awakening rather than remaining unconscious.
So, Jack, what you just said about multiple universes, different timelines, my spirit guide, which was the archangel, showed me the construction of our reality in the second trip. So what they do is each time you go on a DMT trip, they know what you need to know. So the first time they start out with the baby food, then they move up to more solid food. The second time was construction of reality. And they showed me Earth and then all these lines going into infinity of little Earths, showing me multiple timelines.
Subject to them. The matrix of consciousness emerges as a multifaceted phenomenon, validated by ancient wisdom.
We just pause this and give a little shout out and congratulations to Aha. Very good for you. Says he's 5 days sober. That is amazing. I am so proud of you and I'm rooting for you. I am in recovery myself from not substance, but certain process addictions. And so I applaud you. Very good. We're rooting for you. Text me DM me if it ever gets tough. I'll have a chat with you.
Modern science and experiential practice. From the Vedantic concept of Maya to quantum entanglement, from morphic fields to mirror neurons, multiple lines of evidence point to the existence of a collective field of consciousness that shapes human experience and behavior. This understanding presents both challenges and opportunity. The matrix operates simultaneously as a field of information and energy that structures reality, a collection of unconscious patterns that perpetuate mechanical behavior, a system of power dynamics that shapes social interaction, and a potential pathway to higher consciousness through awakening. The path forward lies not in escaping this matrix, but in conscious engagement with it. Through practices of self-observation, study of universal laws, and development of awareness, individuals can transform their relationship with these underlying patterns. This transformation represents not just a personal evolution, but potentially a shift in the collective field itself, as awakened consciousness creates new patterns within the morphic fields. The convergence of ancient wisdom and modern understanding suggests we stand at a crucial juncture. As humanity faces unprecedented challenges, the ability to recognize and transcend unconscious patterns become increasingly vital. The matrix of consciousness offers both the challenge of collective hypnosis and the possibility of collective awakening, a dynamic tension that may determine the course of human evolution. In this light, the journey of awakening becomes not merely a personal quest, but a contribution to the evolution of consciousness itself. As more individuals engage consciously with the patterns that shape reality, the potential exists for new morphic fields to emerge, supporting higher states of awareness and more conscious forms of human organization. The matrix, understood in its fullness, reveals itself as both the context of our current condition and the key to transformation.
All right, y'all made it through that long video. Good job, you guys. Let me see. I am struggling here, folks. I hope I can make it to the end. All right, let me bring up another video.
In the movie The Matrix, Neo walks into the control room of the ship, the Nebuchadnezzar, and sees these green strings of computer code cascading down the screen and asks Cypher, "What is that?" And Cypher responds by saying, "That is the Matrix." What this means is that the experience of physical reality within the matrix was a translation of that green code into lived experience. Our experience of reality is not much different than in the matrix, however, but instead of green code, we translate the differences in frequency and different configurations of light and energy into our experience of physical reality. One example of this phenomenon is our experience of color. We tend to think of color as existing outside of ourselves, when in fact science has demonstrated that color is constructed entirely within the mind and is basically the translation of different frequencies.
So there is a handicap that occurs with this. The eye is actually brain tissue. Some people are missing some color cones in their eyes where they can't see those frequencies. However, if you use sound, you can start to teach them how to see color by hooking them up to, it's like these metal probes that use frequency, and you tune the frequency to that color, or you use musical notes to that color, and then you show them the color while they, go through the notes. So this is actually something I recently discovered and been planning on doing with my husband, because my husband is severely colorblind to the point where he's like majorly a handicap. Not to like throw shade or anything, but just trying to explain it and show you that it is real. So when we actually start that process, I will report back and tell you guys how it goes.
Why does any of this matter anyway? It matters because we tend to think of ourselves as limited physical beings in a larger physical world, the implications of which is that we really do not have much agency or ability to have an effect upon our experience of lived reality. The fact of the matter, however, is that what you think of as your external reality is being experienced entirely within your consciousness. And so that means that if you want to have an impact upon your experience of your lived reality, it all starts with the mind, not just your conscious thoughts, but also your unconscious beliefs.
Yes.
Free your mind.
Yeah.
In the movie...
Okay. So... The Matrix, the system, whenever you hear me say the system, I'm referring to the Matrix. So the system thrives when humans react instead of choose, consume instead of create, and are fearful rather than discerning. So an example of reacting instead of choosing. Let's go to the Agent Smith provocation in the movie The Matrix. So imagine a scenario where an individual within the Matrix begins to like wake up or start to question their reality. The system, often personified by an agent, creates a high stress confrontation. So you can look at the agents as like higher order demons, higher ranking demons, whereas the machines are like the worker bee demons, right? Responsible for keeping the programming running smoothly. The agents, the higher order demons, they go and deal with specific problems. So they create a high stress confrontation. So the reactive path where the system wins, the stimulus there is that Agent Smith corners a human, threatens their life, or insults their dignity, right? The reaction is that the human feels fear or anger, and these are like biological hardwired responses within you. And the result of that is that the human either flees, which is very predictable, or lashes out with blind violence, which is also predictable, because the human is operating within the emotional parameters of the system, and under the emotional parameters the system understands, the programming understands. So the system can easily calculate the outcome, the behavior of the human. The person basically remains a battery, part of the Borg. Their energy is being harvested through their intense emotional spikes. You see that with what's going on in the media and the news right now, and their path is easily blocked. So let's, before I get into the contrast, the choice path, let me play this video for you.
and we're back at the beginning of the loop. Now, if you've got that wrong, or it's running itself, so you're just going round and round. Bad thoughts, create an unconscious, create the unconscious mind, instructions to release negative hormones, chemicals and proteins which make you feel negative, grumpy, whatever way, which affects your personality, which affects your personal reality, which affects your experience, which affects your thoughts, and then you're back at the beginning again. Now, if we change that, now the unconscious mind receives a positive affirmation. She's the unconditional lover. She releases positive hormones, chemicals, proteins into the body. You feel better, your personality is better, your personal reality is better, your experience of the world is better, and you're at the beginning where you have better thoughts and you're in a loop.
All right. Seth, you're hilarious. You'll have to fist fight Ryan.
Right, joining us now.
You want
live
to do
on
all
the
that.
phone.
All right. So, now the contrast to the reactive path is the choice path, and this is the path. And this is where the matrix system fails on you. You cause the matrix to fail in your consciousness. So going back to the stimulus, the same threat occurs. Agent Smith, boom, shows up around the corner, backs you into a corner. The choice path, instead of letting the amygdala in your brain just take over, the individual pauses. They recognizes the fear, but then they choose a different internal state. Perhaps that's peace, curiosity, or just flat out refusal to play the game. And the result of this is the moment, going back to the movie, that Neo becomes the one. By choosing not to react to the physics of the stimulation, he stops the bullets. He isn't fighting the bullets, which is a reaction. He's choosing to believe that they aren't there. Remember, there is no spoon. So that's the action. And Jesus demonstrated this. This is why Neo is very much likened to the Savior. He teaches you how to bend the spoon because there really is no spoon. See what I'm saying? Stopping the bullets. It's all metaphors for choosing for it not to be a part of your reality, whatever that scary threat is coming around the corner. So why choice is the glitch in the machine? It's because the system thrives on reactivity for 3 specific reasons. And I'm going to show you a little chart I've made for you guys right here. So you got the source, and then you got the reactivity, and then the choice. Okay. So I don't know if you can see my cursor. It looks like my cursor's not showing again. So you have the source. So this is the feature. So reactivity in the matrix. External stimuli is going to be your fear, ego, and hunger. The choice, the human spirit, is going to be to fight that is going to be internal values and awareness. The outcome of the external stimuli in the matrix is predictable. If A happens, then human does B. And the choice to break the matrix is to be unpredictable, which creates a new variable in the programming. What the programming would view as a virus, like they called Neo. The energy of the matrix drains the individual and feeds the machine, whereas the energy of choice, the human spirit, conserves energy and empowers you. Logic in the matrix follows the code of the world, whereas logic in the human spirit, or the power of choice, transcends the code. So the choice paradox. So as the architect explains in the movie, The Matrix Reloaded, that even choice can be a form of control, and it can get very confusing on what free will and predestination are and all these types of things. So basically, even if choice can be a form of control, if it's just a choice between two, if it can still be used as a mechanism of control, it's just a choice between two preset paths. So example, the red pill or the blue pill. Now, the system truly begins to fail only when humans exhibit like true agency. And this is something you learn in recovery, is the power of agency over yourself. The ability to say no to something that's going to compromise your principles, not acting blindly unconscious like a worker bee, like a zombie that is feeding the system. So acting from a place of deep conscious intent, that the machine's algorithms, if you do that, the machine's algorithms are not going to be able to calculate your behavior. So when you stop reacting to the noise of the world, you stop becoming a component to its machinery. So one of these human mistakes that feeds the matrix, the second one we mentioned, was consuming instead of creating. So in the philosophy of the matrix, consumption is the ultimate state of passivity. So when humans consume, they are taking in a reality that's provided for them. When they create, they are projecting their own reality onto the world. The system is designed to be the sole provider of meaning, ensuring that humans remain the destination of data rather than the source of data. So here's an example of consuming instead of creating. Go back to the scene in the Matrix, the cuisine scene in the Matrix, where Cypher is talking about the steak. So Cypher's eating a steak while he's meeting with Agent Smith. This is like the perfect illustration for how consumption sustains the system. So you have one, the act of consuming, which is feeding the machine. Here's the experience. Cypher knows that the steak isn't real. He says, and let me quote it, "I know this steak doesn't exist. I know that when I put it in my mouth, the Matrix is telling my brain that it is juicy and delicious." By choosing to value basically Cypher was valuing the sensation of the steak over the truth of his reality, which was that there is no steak. Cypher basically surrenders his agency over to Agent Smith and the Matrix. So he is consuming a pre-programmed sensory loop. What the system gains from this after your submission to it, let's go back to Cypher. As long as Cypher is focused on like his next hit of pleasure or comfort, he is stationary, he is docile and biologically productive, very much like what the Romans said about keeping the population, give them booze, give them, keep them drunk and giving them parties. So, the Roman athletes and the gambling and the booze and all that. So basically after Cypher is just focused on his next hit of pleasure like an addict, he's no longer a threat to the system because his desires are met by the system's menu, which is why addiction is so prevalent. Chronic stress can cause addiction. We've had, crack cocaine deployed on our streets and other drugs by the government themselves. This is all part of the Matrix. So the contrast to consuming is creating. This is how you break the Matrix. You break the system. You break the machine. Here's the contrasting experience. Let's go back to Nebuchadnezzar. So the rebels on the ship. The rebels on the Nebuchadnezzar ship, they eat goop in reality. So this is outside of the Matrix. The movie showed it as like a flavorless protein mash. They aren't there to consume. They are there to create a rebellion, to code hacks into the system and build a future for Zion. This creates personal sovereignty over yourself. Creating requires an output of will. So when Neo learns to manipulate the Matrix, he's essentially writing his own physics into the simulation. He's no longer consuming the rules. He is creating his own. And the system's loss on that, a creator is dangerous because they introduce new code that the system just didn't authorize. So creation is an act of expansion that the Matrix just can't contain. So consumption versus creation, the Matrix functions like a closed loop economy of energy, and consumption keeps that loop sealed. So let me show you this. chart I made for you. So you have, all right. Where'd it go? All right. So you have the consumer, who's the battery, and then you have the creator, which is the red pill. So when the consumer is passive, you receive reality from the system. When you're dependent, so the active attribute, taking the red pill, forces reality to bend to their will. Being dependent needs the matrix for flavor and status. Being independent means you value truth over comfort. You're red pilled. Blue pilled, desires can be mapped out and marketed to. Red pilled, you're disruptive. It creates glitches through original thought. And the focus, when you're in consumption, what can this world give me? Whereas the focus that you have when you're in a creator mode is, what can I build in this world? So the default state, the matrix thrives on, shit, hold on. Hold on. The matrix thrives on consumption because consumption is a distraction. So if a human is busy consuming digital status, digital wealth, or digital pleasure, they never look up to see the bars of the cage that they're in. The system provides the what. So that's the steak, the job, the car, so that the human never asks why. Creation, however, requires the why, because you can't create without purpose, and purpose is the one thing that the matrix cannot provide you. It can only simulate it. And another area is fear instead of discernment. So in the world of the matrix, fear is the ultimate tether. It's a low vibrational state that triggers the fight or flight mechanism, effectively locking the human mind into its most primitive controllable layer. Fear narrows your vision. Discernment expands your vision. The system thrives when humans are too afraid of the consequences to look at the mechanics of their prison. So you see that in Hollywood and in politics too, kissing the ring, bending the knee, or you get shunned and blacklisted. So the fearful state that you're in makes the matrix win. So the experience is when most people stand on that ledge, they look down, they see the height, they feel the wind, and their brain screams death. This is a biological reaction to a simulated threat. You're having a biological, real reaction to a simulated threat. The result, because they're afraid, they accept the rules of gravity that the matrix has written. When they fall because their mind believes in the fall. Their fear validates the simulation's code, making the fake world feel more real than their own potential. And how does the system gain from that? Well, fear keeps the batteries in their pods, you in your cage. The fear of losing a job, the fear of social rejection, or the fear of physical death ensures that humans never test the boundaries of their cage. So the discerning state where the system falls, this discernment is the ability to look at the skyscraper and say, there is no building, there is no wind, there is only code. The result is that discernment allows the person to separate appearance from essence. Instead of reacting to the feeling of height, a discerning mind analyzes the nature of the reality. The system loses in this way. Let's go back to Neo. Neo discerns that the rules are merely mathematical constructs, and then the fear vanishes from him. So without fear, the system has no hooks to pull Neo down. And he doesn't fly because he's brave. He flies because he has discerned that gravity is an opinion and not a fact. Now, I'm not talking about real, actual gravity that your body is tied to in the 3D realm. We're talking about concepts of the consciousness in the cage your consciousness is kept in. So fear versus discernment, the control mechanism there, the matrix uses fear as a noise to drown out the signal of truth. So when you have fear, you have a visceral heart rate response, heart rate increases, and your logic shuts down. When you're using discernment, when you're awakened, you're calm and you're more observational of the how. When you're in fear state, when you're in the matrix, your perception focuses on the threat or the agent. Discernment in the awakened state focuses on the nature of the threat, which would be the program. So the effect of fear by the matrix is that it paralyzes the individual or forces a retreat. And the effect of discernment and being awakened empowers the individual to find a loophole. So, sorry, y'all. So system status, as created by the matrix, is strengthened. The simulation basically remains solid when you're in a fear state. So when you're in a awakened and discerning state, the system status begins to the simulation begins to pixelate. So I hope this makes sense. I know this is really freaking deep. I know I'm just kind of powering through this, but I'm trying to just get the information out because I feel so ill right now. But let me check the chat. So, oh, I got a little troll over in Rumble. This is hilarious. Oh, look it. Someone is commoditizing me and sexualizing me over in the Rumble chat like the misogynistic pig that they are. Oh, I wonder where they come from. Telling me I need to shut the fuck up, be on OnlyFans and show my tits. That's fucking hilarious. I don't give a fuck. I am way too expensive for any of you anyway. So OnlyFans itself could not afford me. Just saying. The whole entire company. Anyway, but while we're at it, we've got to take a break and read a message from our sponsor over at Chicago Steak Company. All right, let me tell you about my Valentine's Day sponsor. And honestly, this one's a no-brainer. Chicago Steak Company, code HEART26. Look, you could fight for a reservation at some overpriced restaurant, sit there surrounded by strangers, rush through your meal, or you could stay home, cook together, and have a way better experience. These are USDA prime steaks, hand-selected, wet-aged up to 40 days, restaurant quality, and delivered to your door. Here's the deal. It's the last week for free Valentine's Day shipping. Order $199 or more and use code HEART26 and you get $145 in free gifts. That's 2 Maryland crab cakes, 6 Italian chocolate pastries, and free shipping. So you've got appetizer, main course, dessert, done. Go to mychicagosteak.com/heart26, code heart26. That's HEART26, and the link is in the description. All right, we are returning back to our regularly scheduled programming. All right. So, getting back to what the agent in the Matrix represents. So the agent in the Matrix represents the personification of fear. The agents are designed to be terrifying, specifically to prevent discernment. They don't want you to do what the Apostle Paul said and examine. So if you're terrified of Agent Smith, you're thinking about how to survive him. If you are discerning, you're thinking about how he functions. That's how you beat him. As Morpheus said in the movie, their strength and their speed are still based in a world that is built on rules. Because of that, they will never be as strong or as fast as you can be. So the system thrives when you believe that the agents are monsters, and it fails the moment you discern that they are just antivirus software. So getting back to the Kabbalah. Kabbalah teaches that thoughts generate energy, that words direct that energy, and that actions lock it into physical form. So to go over that, let me show you this video.
Since the dawn of creation, words have held immense power. Kabbalah teaches that the universe was spoken into existence and that every word we speak echoes in both the physical and spiritual worlds. Today, we'll uncover the mystical power of words and how the ancient teachings of Kabbalah reveal the divine language of creation. In the Kabbalistic tradition, words are not just sounds or symbols. They are powerful forces that shape reality itself. According to the Torah, God created the world through speech, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. The words themselves carried the divine energy that brought the universe into being. The Hebrew language, in particular, is considered the language of creation. Each letter carries a unique vibration and divine energy, forming...
That for me is debatable about the Hebrew language. For me and my broader studies, what have revealed to me is that the language of creation is actually math. The mode is light. And if you know anything about Metatron's cube, you'll kind of get that.
Words that act as vessels for divine light. When you speak with intention and awareness, you are participating in the same process of creation that brought the cosmos into existence. Kabbalah teaches that the 22 Hebrew letters are not just characters. They are the spiritual building blocks of creation, channels through which divine energy flows into the world. Every word formed by these letters holds immense creative potential. Each letter has its own unique spiritual meaning. For example, the letter Aleph represents unity and the oneness of God, while the letter Bet signifies creation and duality. When you combine these letters, you create divine codes, words that not only communicate ideas, but shape the fabric of reality itself. One of the most powerful ways to use the mystical power of words is through prayer. In Kabbalah, prayer is more than a request. It is an act of co-creation with the divine. When you pray with intention, you channel the divine energies of the Hebrew letters, aligning your words with the forces of creation. The ancient prayers, such as the Shema and the Amidah, are encoded with divine energies. When recited with intention and mindfulness, these prayers not only uplift your soul, but influence the spiritual realms, creating ripples that affect the physical world.
All right. Hang on one second, folks. I'm so sorry. All right. So the matrix truth is that you're not trapped by systems. You're trapped by unexamined habits. Okay. The Ein Sof versus the illusion of control. So the purpose of Ein Sof is God without the dogma. Okay. Because religion, let's be real, is still a part of the matrix. It's a program that is used by the matrix. So that's what dogma really is. Ein Sof is the infinite source, no hierarchy, no tyranny, and the matrix thrives on false authority, scarcity mindset, and separation from God. The spiritual mechanics as understood by the Jewish people, Kabbalah reveals that separation is simulated, that control is illusion, and that fear is the firewall. So the matrix tells you that God is distant. Kabbalah tells you that God is flowing through you. So I have a video on that.
One mistake that people make is that they believe that they are a human inside of a universe. This is completely false. You are the universe experiencing itself through the human form. The body shows you the order of manifestation. Every physical object began as a thought. This pencil was a thought in the realms of the mind. Everything begins in the thought in the head. Then it goes to an emotion, because every thought creates an emotion in the heart. And then the thought and emotion creates the action, which is then manifested through the feet. The body starts to move and take action on this thought and emotion. So the body is showing you the order of manifestation, which is the Kabbalistic tree of life. How amazing is God's design?
All right. And to my Insta people, I can make, if Backwater or MC, Irish, all my OGs, if you guys, once you transition over to Rumble, I can make you a moderator on my channel. You may have to, if somebody could check my live stream on Instagram and let me know if it's okay, that would be good. Let me see. Okay. All right. Whoopsie. Oh yeah, you're missing it over there, Backwater. He went freaking Donkey Kong, bro. So yeah, I can make you guys moderators over on Rumble. All right. Here is the next video.
If you want to manifest something, you have to start with it. The foundation for manifestation is always the present moment. It's not the future. It works very simply. Jesus explained it in one sentence, just one sentence. Whenever you pray for something, believe that you have received it and it will be given to you. Now, the key is that he did not say believe that you will receive it, because that puts it into the future. He said when you pray for something, in other words, when you want something, believe that you have received it. Now, what does that mean? You have to feel the being of you, the fullness of life. And then, if you then want to achieve something, you bring a vision, what you want, let it merge with that feeling. Let's say you see yourself as this great musician, but not in the future. How does this great musician feel? Reached millions of people. This is exactly how it feels. The fullness of life. If you want to manifest something, you have to...
Because remember, we are created in God's image. Your thoughts, your words create.
3 vertebrae in your spine. There's 33 years in the life of Jesus Christ. Substance that comes from your medulla, which looks like the Ark of the Covenant, has angel's wings around it, the whole thing. Trip down your spine to your sacrum, which is Christ coming down into human form. And if you don't squander that essence, that sexual essence, it ascends again and goes back up to heaven, which is your thing. It's also the story of Santa Claus. Why he comes down the chimney is because this juice or this substance actually passes what's called the claustrum, which is where they got Santa Claus. So it goes down the chimney and back up the chimney. There's 33.
Talking about DMT. All right. So, next video.
A novel insight about life is that perspective is also part of life. Perspective is one of the ingredients of life. But I want to take it one step further and say this. Perspective is not just an ingredient of life, it's the ingredient of life. It is actually the main ingredient of my life. It is what I can contribute most to my own life and the quality of my life. And that is ultimately, when we say that God gave us freedom to choose, it's that choice of perspective that is my truest and most unlimited expression of that free choice, is how I view the reality in front of me. That is ultimately, when we say that we have free choice, that's its ultimate expression in my opinion, because every other expression will be limited. I'm not strong enough to pick up what I can't pick up. I'm not smart enough to understand what I can't understand, but I can perceive my reality in my mind, in my heart, the way I choose to, and that is unlimited in comparison to the rest of the options.
Okay.
A novel.
All right, so the soul, according to Kabbalah, the soul is multi-layered. We incarnate with purpose and repair work, which is the tikkun, or light work, finding the sparks that we talked about earlier. So life challenges are not random. They're meant that's part of your purpose and part of your repair work. The sparks, when everyone does their repair work and finding the sparks, the or tikkun, that's how you ascend our reality into the period of eternal righteousness. So your life change, so reincarnation exists as a soul correction, not a punishment. Also, it teaches that you're not here by accident. So you're here to repair something. And so let's talk about that. Or let's watch a couple videos on that.
Every soul traveled thousands of light
forever.
years from heaven all the way down here to this world to elevate what we call the sparks. Each one of us came down into the world to refine the world. Every soul traveled thousands of light years from heaven all the way down here to this world to elevate what we call the sparks. Each one of us came down into the world to refine the world. Every soul traveled thousands of light years from heaven all the way down here to this world to elevate what we call the sparks. Each one of us came down into the world to refine the world. Every soul traveled thousands of light years from heaven all...
Okay, let's play the next one.
When the body dies, what happens to the
Wait a
soul?
minute, did
It
I even
continues.
finish the
Suppose
other one?
I can upgrade.
Hold on.
Every soul traveled thousands of light years.
Yeah, I did. Okay.
From
When the body dies, what happens to the soul? It continues. Suppose I can upgrade my car. Can I upgrade my soul as well? Yeah, to a soul that's more similar to the Creator. It has a greater will to bestow, to connect to others, to love more. Then it puts me in a better position in regard to life. Yeah. It opens a connection to the Creator. He thinks and dreams about how to do good to others. And what does he get as a result? He gets a sense of wholeness, perfection, eternity. It changes him entirely, and it has nothing to do with flesh and blood. When the body dies, what...
Kabbalah shares that no new souls come to the world in our time. But the reason why we have so many more people in the world is that each soul comes with a unique mission that the Kabbalists call tikkun, which is defined as the correction of our negative emotions, fears, and pain that we brought from a past life. We experience our tikkun through relationships and situations that trigger our pain and trauma. When we don't react to these feelings through escapism or instant gratification, but we rather pause and accept the pain and trust that it is coming from the Creator to lead us to good, we transform this darkness to light. Kabbalah shares...
All right. So, the soul is basically the glitch in the matrix. The soul, this should be very empowering for you because souls don't fully belong to the material layer. You are not a body that has a soul. You're a soul that has a body. So that's why truth tellers feel uncomfortable. That's why awakened people feel out of place. Reincarnation is actually a returning to fix distortions. And every soul carries a repair code in terms of the matrix called the tikkun. So your soul was not ever meant to obey the matrix. It was meant to correct it. And we're going to get in a little bit more about your tikkun right now.
Tikkun is Hebrew and Aramaic for your soul's correction. For example, your fear of abandonment is your tikkun. Your jealousy is your tikkun. Anger can be your tikkun. Your soul came to the world with these qualities. These are your tikkuns, and you're here to transform them. Tikkun is Hebrew and Aramaic for your soul's correction. For example, your fear of abandonment is your tikkun. Your jealousy is your tikkun. Anger can be your tikkun. Your soul came to the world with these qualities. These are your tikkuns, and you're here to transform them. Tikkun is...
All right. Here's the next video. So Seth, what these videos are saying is it's not really that the souls come back and get recycled. It's the same soul. It's the bodies that get recycled because the body degrades and dies.
What does Tikkun Olam mean? Tikkun Olam refers to making the world as it was at creation, free of any sin. Tikkun Olam will happen when everyone follows their commandments, be it the 7 commandments or the 600.
All right, and this is the paradise earth that evangelicals believe in, which would be Tikkun Olam. That will happen, like they're saying, when everyone follows their commandments and we bring eternal righteousness to the earth.
13. What does Tikkun Olam mean?
So here's another one last video on this.
Was a false messiah. His name was Shabtai Tzvi, and he tried to bring the Kabbalah out, but in a terrible way, in a way that he threw away the commandments and the Jewish law, and it created like an anarchy and it was like a big trauma. And maybe he saw that as a signal that the time has come to bring the inner dimension of the Torah out, but in a proper way. It's a general rule that if something is going on in the world, even if it's a very, very negative, it's like a signal that why is it happening in this negative way? It's because the good people aren't doing it in a good way. Whenever you have something, a bad trend in the world, or something that's causing chaos, maybe the obvious reaction would be to push it away, to go in the opposite direction, to do the opposite in order to counteract it.
Right.
But the Hasidic concept is of tikkun. Tikkun is rectifying the negative phenomenon with a similar positive phenomenon that's trying to do the same thing, but doing it in a more rectified way, in a better way. He was a false messiah. His name was Shabtai Tzvi.
All right. So, good, evil, and free will, according to the Kabbalah. Okay, so we're going to address those questions. Those are some hard questions that we usually can be debate over, especially in Christianity. Evil is not equal to God, according to the Kabbalah. Evil equals imbalance, blockage, and the misuse of energy. So we kind of talked about that the last few days, the difference between an evil person and a wicked person. An evil person is someone that has imbalance, blockage, and the misuse of energy. They don't necessarily know that what they're doing is bad. It's a place of ignorance, or they just are a bad problem solver, versus a wicked person is someone who knows very well what they're doing is bad and they love it anyway. They continue to do it knowing it is wrong because they love it. So free will, according to Kabbalah, determines alignment, chaos, and restoration. So let's get into that real quick.
Do humans have free will? The simple answer here is yes, but it's a bit of a trick. Most people who think they have free will are actually enslaved by their senses, habits, and beliefs. They'll say, I have free will, I can do whatever I want. And then they'll go and do the exact same thing every single day, following the same patterns and habits. They'll contract the same issues and submit to the same social or televised programming, and never realize that they're stuck in a matrix of their own thoughts and societal systems.
All right. And I actually have to bring you... Uh-oh. Hang on one second, guys. My software is glitching. Hang on. Oh my God. This is terrible.
What's amazing then is to realize that when one actually attempts to surrender to the will of the soul, the higher self, or spirit, pick your favorite title, they are actually able to realize the chains that bind them to their limiting beliefs and habits, and then they attain higher levels of true sovereignty, giving them freedom like they never realized. So, free will, yes, but to truly receive it, we must reside in the spirit, not the ego. Do humans have free will? The simple...
Okay. Let's get on to our next video.
Freedom of choice. We know that the laws operating in nature are immutable, like iron. This system restrains us, not allowing us to move freely in any direction whatsoever. I don't choose the part of the world I'm born or live in, or in what period of time. I don't choose my family, my social environment, my hereditary traits, nor my characteristics. I can't even choose my demise. So what do I have control over? If the entire universe is a system of immutable laws, where am I in all this? Where's my free will? Let's look at the factors that determine choice. Foremost is the source, which...
All right. Now, I do really actually have to pause it and bring you a message from our friends over at 1775 Coffee. If it'll load. Hold on. All right, still haven't tried 1775 coffee. Now is your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped. Only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold, dark roast that hits hard, the smooth, medium roast, and the Vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus, no crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus, you're getting a gold spoon clip because freedom is not scooped with a plastic. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions, and a black 1775 tumbler. $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. All right, let's getting back to our video.
Which is something implanted in us before we were born and without our consent. But with regard to other factors, we do have freedom. By choosing the right environment, meaning the one that will develop attributes that we would like to see in ourselves, we can change our lives and reconfigure our life path from a difficult endeavor to an exciting journey. Freedom of choice. We know that the law
free will predestination argument. So think about this morning, all the choices you made to get here to this classroom. And now you're sitting here in your desk, about to leave the room in just a matter of minutes, and there's all these choices, all these potential. You could stay in your chair. You could go out the back door. You could go out the front door. You could go right. You could go left. All these different things you could do. But 10 minutes after I dismiss class, you'll look back and it will be this, because only one of those potential things will happen. There's only one actual event, time and place, but there's infinite potential. So with the free will predestination piece, we as humans in our perspective are always sitting right here looking into the potential of the future, but God always sees this. It's just two different ways of talking about the same thing because only one event ever happened. Free will predestination.
Right. And the last one from someone from, I like to show you different cultures talking on these topics.
And the question is, physicists have concluded as of now that the universe is deterministic. So, is there free will for humans, or is free will an illusion?
See, right now, all of you sitting here, whether you sit here in a pleasant manner next to the person who is sitting next to you, or you abuse them, or you stab them, or you throttle them, is it by your will or is it by some universal law? I'm asking. Hello? Is it by your free will or no? Whether you look at them wonderfully or you look at them nasty, is it by free will or is it because of something else? The way the planets are spinning. A lot of people thought so forever, because people think they are the way they are because of the way the stars are moving right now. Unfortunately, a whole lot of stars they're looking at don't even exist, they're gone long time ago. But they're determining your future and your life.
And the question is…
All right. So humans participate in creation daily. So in Kabbalah, humans participate in creation through the concept of the Tikkun Olam, repairing the world, especially by raising the sparks of holiness hidden within the material world. So according to the teachings of Rabbi Isaac Luria, a primordial cosmic catastrophe called the shattering of the vessels scattered 288 divine sparks into the physical realm. So humans are seen as like active partners with the divine, which is why you've heard me say in the past, no, I don't worship the divine. I work with the divine like a marriage. So the humans are tasked with finding and liberating these sparks through daily actions. So a daily example I can give you, elevating the mundane. So a primary way humans co-create daily is by transforming a consumer act into a creative or a spiritual act. So the act of eating, when a person eats purely for survival or sensory pleasure, which is just consumption, the divine spark remains trapped. However, if they eat with the intent to gain energy for doing good, or if they pause to say a blessing, they raise the spark within the food, which is why, as a Christian, you're taught to pray over your food. This is why you hear me tell you that everything you do is spiritual. And I've said before on the show, it doesn't matter if it's what you're eating for breakfast. Everything you do is spiritual. So being in an awakened state and out of the matrix, you understand that and you know that because there's no spoon. So the result, this conscious intent, which is called kavana in Kabbalah, separates the husk, the physical matter, from the kernel, which is the divine light. So by doing this, you're not just consuming the world, you're refining and creating it in each moment. So this is why the collective consciousness is incredibly important. So key Kabbalistic methods of co-creation. Let me show you my chart here I made for you. So my cursor is not working again. The mitzvot is the method through via Kabbalah, performing ethical or ritual acts, charity, keeping the Sabbath, or in Christianity, a holy day of rest. And the Kabbalistic purpose of that is to directly connect the physical world to its source. The business integrity, the daily action of that is being honest in trade and using profits for the benefit of others. This is where the Zionists go wrong. This is where they have strayed away from the spiritual mechanisms of accountability. The Kabbalistic purpose of business integrity transforms material stuff into godly nothingness. I don't know why it says that. That is because I took that from an article. Of course, they don't spell it out. So conscious speech, the daily action using speech and thought to encourage or create harmony. And the purpose of this is it mirrors the divine speech that brought the elements into being. So facing your darkness. The daily action of that is choosing to remain purposeful during times of struggle or low points. And the purpose of that is to it allows the sparks to attach to the soul so they can be elevated upon recovery. So in this framework, the universe is not a finished product, but it's an ongoing process of continuous creation. So every time a human chooses to act with divine intent, they are essentially the 8th day of creation, continuing the work where the divine left off. So this hits deep. Heaven and hell. This is about to hit deep. We're going into heaven and hell. They're not places. They're states of alignment according to Kabbalah. Okay? And if you understand what we're saying about God, consciousness, and kingdom in the heart, you understand this. Because there's no literal fiery place of hell. All right? Let's go to this next video. Catholics would debate that.
There's disagreement even among theologians on this question. Some in Christendom believe that when we die, we simply go into a sleep until the second coming of Christ, in which he raises us. There's others that believe that once you die, you go straight to heaven then. And then, of course, you're reunited, and then there's the second coming and all of the things that happen there. And so the question is which one of those is correct? Well, I think Scripture is pretty clear to teach that we go straight to heaven. Jesus said to the thief on the cross, "Today you will be with me in paradise." And although there are other examples of Jesus only sleeping, there was not an indication that sleeping didn't also include that. Now, there's a lot of other implications to that, but rest assured, when our loved ones who fall away, who die in Christ, when they die, they are with the Savior. When we die, we are with the Savior.
Okay, let's go. Just wanted to put that out there just so we don't get confused.
But what if heaven and hell really are something a lot more personal and more powerful than clouds and halos versus fire and pitchforks? Right there in the Bible. The kingdom of heaven is not a place.
Now you got to remember the principles of what we were talking about in terms of quantum physics too. So keep that in mind.
Point to, it's right here among us, even inside us. Jesus was saying heaven is not.
So if the kingdom of God is within your heart, so is hell. You have to start to understand this concept if you want freedom and liberation from the matrix.
Not a far-off future realm, it's a present reality, a state of being, a level of consciousness. Jesus talks about repentance a lot. He says, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. The word that Jesus uses, written in the original Greek, is metanoia. That word,
so
metanoia.
I had to study Greek and Hebrew in the cult because they required it for understanding of the scriptures, which I would understand why. It makes sense to me.
Noia was later translated to repent. It literally combines the words meta, change, beyond, noia, mind, understanding, perception. So it literally means change your mind. A radical shift in perception. To truly transform the world, we have to go beyond self-awareness and awaken to all awareness. But when we awaken into all awareness, we create from connection, compassion, and unity. It means the world is the field of transformation. But what if heaven and hell really are?
That guy, I love that guy. That guy breaks down the Bible a lot. He's amazing, actually. His appearance is very ironic. It's kind of like why I call my show Thirst Trap News.
When delusions are absent, the heart is the land of Buddhas. It is paradise. When delusions are present, the heart is hell.
See?
When the heart reaches nirvana, you don't see nirvana. Because the heart is nirvana. If you see nirvana somewhere outside the heart, you're deluding yourself. The Buddha is in the heart, like how fragrance is in a tree. The Buddha comes from a heart free of suffering, just as fragrance comes from a tree free of decay.
So there's a reason why I'm incorporating all these cultures, because this is coming down. This is code we're talking about. We're talking about the matrix. So spiritual mechanics this is the foundation to all religions. So you're seeing the same theme popping up in Christianity, that he says the kingdom of God is within the heart. In Buddha, they explain that both of those notions of heaven and hell are within the heart, and so on and so forth. So, just to get back to the matrix is a guilt-based system. Good and evil, code alignment. You don't need to have moral panic. So what's our goal here? We're against the matrix, to deprogram guilt-based thinking. So evil isn't a being, it's misalignment. It's energy flowing backward. The matrix survives on shame, fear, and division, whereas alignment restores the flow of that. Evil collapses when people stop feeding it attention and emotion. So in the context, not intent and feeding it attention in terms of ignoring bad and not hold criminals accountable, that you're feeding when you hold people accountable, that's still part of the divine order. What it's saying is don't be a slave to your emotions that the matrix is causing you to feel. We discussed that earlier with the whole, programmed responses. So in context of the matrix, as a metaphor for control, the system uses the structures of religion, specifically in the concepts of sin, unworthiness, and debt, to keep humans in a perpetual state of internal conflict. So when humans feel guilty, they stop looking for the exit and start looking for redemption within the system's own rules. So we're talking about religion here. So the default sinner program. The Matrix thrives on the idea that humans are inherently flawed or fallen. In the films, Agent Smith famously describes humanity as a virus or plague. So you hear a lot of that wording coming from Yahweh in the Old Testament. How it works, by convincing individuals that they are the problem, the system ensures that they spread their energy on self-improvement, self-flagellation, rather than questioning the reality of the walls around them. And the result of that is that guilt acts as a weight that anchors the mind into the simulation. And a person who feels they owe something to the world or are not enough will work harder within the system to prove their worth. So the illusion of predestination, the prophecy. So religion in the Matrix, like the prophecy of the one is often used by the architect as a safety valve. The mechanism here is that the system creates a religious framework complete with a savior and a destiny to give the rebels a sense of purpose that the system actually controls. So doesn't mean that the savior isn't there. It's just that, are you looking at the true savior or the replicated savior that the Matrix has created? And the guilt factor that comes from that. So when Neo or the others fail to live up to the holy expectations of the prophecy, they feel like a deep sense of guilt and responsibility for the fate of Zion. And this guilt drives them to make choices that ironically lead them right back to the source, the divine. I mean, the source of the Matrix, the machine city, to reset the system. So moralism as a distraction. And yesterday I gave you examples how the Zionists use moralism from a place of authority to make you bend to their will politically. So moralism as a distraction. The Matrix uses religious morality to define good and evil and in ways that serve the machine. So the trap of this is if the system can keep humans arguing over what is sinful behavior within the simulation, it prevents them from realizing that their entire simulation itself is the ultimate deception. So someone made a comment, like when I was talking about the Great Awakening, they were like, it's actually more like the Great Lie. And I said, actually, you're right. That's what the Great Awakening reveals, is that it's been a great lie. The result of this is that guilt becomes a feedback loop. Okay, this is psychology. Humans police themselves and each other and act as unpaid guards, snitches for the Matrix by shaming anyone who deviates from the righteous, compliant path. Okay, so let me show you mine. So the origin of guilt in the Matrix is external. I have a broken rule. The responsibility of the awakened when it comes to the origin is I see my power to change. It's internal, not external. So the effect of guilt from the Matrix is paralysis. You look backwards at your sins, and the effect of responsibility from being awakened is action over paralysis. So you look forward at your choices. And the goal of the system, the goal of the guilt system in the Matrix is to keep the battery submissive and heavy. And the goal of responsibility with the awakened is that the system cannot use a mind that's free of debt. So, Kabbalah is showing you where the Zionists have gone wrong, where they have lost their way. They're no longer grounded in the spiritual mechanics of the universe. So by using moral weight of religion, the Matrix ensures that even if a human suspects that the world is a lie, they'll feel too unworthy or guilty to believe that they deserve to be free. So why Kabbalah and spiritual mechanics were once hidden. All right, so we're going to show you a little video on that. We're getting towards the end here. So we're going to show you why these secrets were gatekept, starting with Yahweh in the Garden of Eden, passing down the elite bloodline of constantly trying to gatekeep spiritual mechanics across cultures.
But the real reason why we're able to learn Kabbalah these days is because there's been a project by masters in the field to, so to speak, filter out the information which we are able to receive. But the real reason why we're able to learn Kabbalah these days is because there's been a project by masters in the field to, so to speak, filter out the information which we are able to receive. But the real reason why we're able to learn Kabbalah these days.
Thank you, Pfizer. I appreciate you. Great choice for after this. All right, so this wasn't secrecy for power. This was secrecy for safety, believe it or not. So mystical knowledge and awareness without grounding. Now, I'm not talking about the cabal. They kept secrecy for power. Kabbalah did not keep secrecy because they're trying to hide power. They're trying to protect your safety, because it takes a mentor to start to interact with spiritual mechanics, because you open yourself up to the darker entities, or what Christians call demons. So that mystical knowledge and awareness without grounding can breed and inflate the ego. It can cause delusion and fracture identity. It can literally cause psychosis, and it can be misused for wicked reasons. So wisdom before power, because power requires responsibility. So awakening too fast without wisdom doesn't free you. It actually destabilizes you. And that's why Jesus said, do not forsake the gathering of yourselves together. He didn't say form a cult in my name, i.e. the Vatican. He said, don't forsake the gathering of yourselves, because you need brotherhood and to develop mentorship, so that you aren't just bumping around in the world trying to figure things out, stumble across this, and then destabilize yourself. So in the history of Jewish mysticism, the spiritual mechanics of Kabbalah were guarded with extreme caution for centuries. It wasn't to create an elite club like the Cabal does, but rather to act as a safety protocol for the human psyche. So historically, Kabbalah was only taught to students who were over 40, married, and well-versed and revealed in the layers of law. And at that time, it would have been the Torah. And here's why. So protection against spiritual psychosis. I think a lot of people, just me personally as a psychologist, I've run across a lot of people that have ended up unfortunately drugged, medicated, or worse, ended up in mental institutions, when I really think there's a good portion of them who actually have spiritual talents and never had a mentor to show them, and they literally, their mind, their consciousness broke because of this. So protection against spiritual psychosis. Kabbalah deals with the underlying code of reality and concepts like the infinite, which was the Ein Sof we talked about, the contraction of light, so the Sitzum, and the gathering of vessels. The risk of this is, without a solid foundation in physical reality and ethics, these abstract concepts can lead to the loss of grounding or appearing very demonic. The metaphor, it's like giving the administrative password of an operating system to someone who does not know how to use a keyboard, or they might accidentally delete the files that keep them alive because they don't understand the software. So preventing the ego from hijacking power, Kabbalah teaches that thoughts and intentions have a direct impact on spiritual worlds. So the concern here is that if a person has not refined their character, which is why they made them wait till they were 40, married, had life experience. If a person doesn't refine their character, which is their vessel, they might try to use these spiritual mechanics for selfish gains, control, or manipulation. And then there's the groups like the Cabal who teach them to use it for selfish gains, control, and manipulation. And that is otherwise, in the secular field, otherwise known as dark psychology. The goal here is to, the guards at the door of the tradition wanted to ensure that only those who had conquered their ego could access the tool of creation. So this is very similar to someone who's gone through the 12 steps of recovery. That teaches you to conquer your ego and fully surrender and lean on your higher power. So this would be a very similar process there. So avoiding, bye Jack, see you later. So avoiding misinterpretation about like the Cabal problem. So as we discussed earlier, when deep mystical truths are taken out of context, they're easily distorted into superstitions, magic, or used to fuel fear-based conspiracies. So the guardrail here is, by keeping the teachings oral within a lineage, teachers would ensure that the student understood the nuance and the metaphors rather than taking them literally, like the tree of life being a literal tree that they intentionally made you think was that way and didn't really tell you the truth on what that tree of life actually is. The shift here would be, why is it open now and being revealed more often. Well, in the last few centuries, starting with the Ari, which is Rabbi Isaac Luria, and later the Baal Shem Tov, the gates that they talk about, there's gates are all around the world. They were open. The Kabbalistic reasoning is that the world has reached a level of darkness and confusion to where these inner lights, these sparks are no longer the inner lights are no longer a luxury of the elite. They are necessary medicine for everyone to survive and find meaning. So we are approaching the end times. So that is why God is starting to reveal spiritual mechanics more and more and more. So in the Matrix context, the code was hidden to prevent people from breaking the simulation before they were ready to handle the desert of the real, if you remember that phrase in the movie. So modern misuse of Kabbalah versus true Kabbalah. Red strings don't equal transformation. Symbols without understanding equal superstition. Kabbalah is study, discipline, ethical living, and inner refinement. That's really all it is. So let's watch these, I believe, last 3 videos.
Is there a connection between Kabbalah and red strings? No. Quite simply and frankly, there is absolutely no connection between Kabbalah and red strings. The so-called Kabbalah red string is nothing but a lucrative commercial invention that's been created in the last 3 or 4 decades. And there are no Kabbalistic sources relevant to our era that make any mention of Kabbalah in relation to red strings. Kabbalah has no connection to red strings or really to any clothing or physical objects as having any attribution to spirituality. Let's just get in and just get a bit of an overview on what Kabbalah is. Kabbalists say that we live at the level of this world and that above this world is what's called the spiritual world. The method of Kabbalah is precisely a method for how to rise above this world, above this lowest level of perception of reality, and to discover the spiritual world. And it involves transforming our egoistic qualities, because the qualities we have in this world are completely self-serving, aimed at self-benefit alone. That's our operating system at the level of this world. Each and every person runs on that operating system of self-benefit, self-serving. It's called egoism in the wisdom of Kabbalah. It's a constantly running motor that's governing us at every single moment. Shifting to the spiritual world means shifting to a different operating system, means shifting from this egoistic attitude and approach we have to the world to its complete opposite, one where we wish to benefit others and to benefit the entirety of nature around us, first and foremost. And by doing so, we can feel the completeness, the eternity.
Damn, Backwater read me loud and clear. He got it right. I am a Cancer. Backwater reminds me of a Cancer too, or a Pisces.
Of that perception outside of us. Is there a connection between...
All right, let's get into this video. Coming up.
Kabbalah, often spelled as Kabbalah, is a mystical and esoteric tradition within Judaism that seeks to explore the deeper, hidden aspects of the universe and the divine. Over the centuries, Kabbalah has accumulated myths and misconceptions, leading to misunderstandings about its nature and teachings. In this list, we will explore 10 common myths about Kabbalah and uncover the reality behind each one. Myth 1. Kabbalah is a religion on its own. Reality. Kabbalah is not a separate religion but a mystical and esoteric aspect of Judaism.
So I knew it was something similar to me because water signs and air signs are very similar. Backwater. We flow through the tiniest cracks and crevices.
It complements Jewish teachings and is studied by those already adhering to the Jewish faith. Myth 2. Kabbalah is solely about magic and spells. Reality. While Kabbalah does explore mystical elements, it is not focused solely on magic and spells. It delves into various spiritual and metaphysical concepts, including the nature of God, the soul, and the universe. Myth 3. Kabbalah is only for a select few or spiritual elite. Reality. Historically, Kabbalah was reserved for scholars and those with deep knowledge of Jewish texts. However, in contemporary times, some aspects of Kabbalah have become more accessible to a broader audience through study and practice. Myth 4. Kabbalah is primarily concerned with numerology and codes. Reality. While numerology and codes are elements within Kabbalah, they are just part of a broader system that encompasses a wide range of teachings on spirituality, mysticism, and the nature of reality. Myth 5. Kabbalah contradicts mainstream Judaism. Reality. Kabbalah is not in direct contradiction to mainstream Judaism. It offers a different perspective and interpretation of Jewish teachings, and many Jewish scholars have engaged with Kabbalistic ideas throughout history. Myth 6. Kabbalah promises instant enlightenment or spiritual transformation. Reality. Kabbalah is a complex and deep spiritual tradition that requires study, dedication, and a deep understanding of Jewish texts. It does not promise instant or easy spiritual transformation. Myth 7. Kabbalah is only about seeking personal gain or material wealth. Reality. While some contemporary interpretations of Kabbalah may emphasize personal growth and material abundance, traditional Kabbalistic teachings focus on understanding the divine and developing a closer relationship with God. Myth 8. Kabbalah is a secret and exclusive tradition. Reality. While some aspects of Kabbalah were historically kept secretive, many Kabbalistic texts and teachings are now widely available for study and exploration by those interested in the subject. Myth 9. Kabbalah can be learned solely from books or online resources.
Nope.
Reality. Kabbalah is a profound and complex tradition that requires guidance from knowledgeable teachers and a deep understanding of Jewish texts and spiritual practices. Myth 10. Kabbalah guarantees supernatural powers or abilities. Reality. While Kabbalah explores mystical concepts, it does not guarantee supernatural powers. The focus of Kabbalah is on spiritual growth, understanding, and connecting with the divine. Any claims of supernatural abilities should be approached with skepticism.
All right.
Kabbalah.
And then I got this video for you.
Misconceptions that have been connected to Kabbalah all throughout history, which connects Kabbalah to religion, connects Kabbalah to mysticism, connects Kabbalah to tarot, to red strings, to all kinds of things that it's not. And if you're really trying to explain what is authentic Kabbalah and how to differentiate it from those things, science becomes the most accurate way of explaining it. The research of reality through the fact that Kabbalah is explained as science. So a general idea of it is this, that science is a research of reality through the five senses, and the results are registered and repeatable. Kabbalah, as a science, is a research of the upper reality, a reality which is beyond our five senses, and it requires developing a new sense, what can be called a sixth sense.
All right, let me pause right there, as I've got to read a message from our friends here at Rumble. All right, you probably noticed Rumble is growing fast and it's not slowing down. They're building a real alternative to big tech that puts creators first and actually protects free speech. And now there's Rumble Premium, an easy way to upgrade your experience. With Premium, you get ad-free viewing across the platform, no pre-rolls, no interruptions, just content you came for. Plus, Premium members unlock exclusive content like bonus videos, behind-the-scenes drops, and more from your favorite creators. Right now, Rumble is offering $10 off an annual subscription. Just go to rumble.com/premium and use the promo code STUDIO at checkout. That's rumble.com/premium, promo code STUDIO. No ads, more freedom, and content you actually care about. That's the deal.
And likewise, through the development of this new sense and the perception of this new reality, you get results that are registered and repeatable. And all throughout history, Kabbalists have been getting these results and writing about them in their books, similar to how a physicist would go out and conduct experiments and register the results that that the physicist gets and put them in the books that other scientists can go and repeat. And if they repeat the same experiments, so then they'll get the similar results. So it's the same thing, is the exact same thing here. So this was the basis of explaining Kabbalah as a science. Due to the complexity of explaining this, I'll draw a little bit.
All right. So I'm going to pause that video there if you want to watch the rest of it. It's called Why Kabbalah is Not Religion or Mysticism, but Science, because I'm running tight on time right now. So practical Kabbalah, the authentic way, is a person uses Kabbalistic meditation to identify their own selfishness and transform it into selflessness, thereby opening the gates for blessings to flow naturally. The misuse of it, a person skips the internal work and treats a divine name like a cheat code to manipulate physical reality. So this is considered dangerous because it treats the creator as a vending machine and risks short-circuiting the soul's development. So 2 primary causes of misuse of Kabbalah is superstition. That's believing a physical object like a string or metal has power independent of your own actions. And the matrix equivalent to that is believing a good luck glitch in the code will save you without you learning how to fight. And the spiritual bypassing misuse is using oneness as an excuse to ignore physical responsibilities or ethical duties. And the matrix equivalent to that is choosing to stay in a perfect simulated room while the world burns, like the way Cypher did. So when Kabbalah is used for self-aggrandizement, making the I bigger, instead of self-nullification, making the I, the self, as a vessel for light, it becomes klipa, or a husk, which traps the light rather than revealing it. So approaching spiritual practices with ethical considerations and a focus on personal growth rather than manipulation or material gain is very essential. So the misconception that Kabbalah is demonic or satanic is a byproduct of cultural clashing, linguistic confusion, and the fear of the unknown. So when a tradition is kept hidden, as Kabbalah was, those on the outside often fill the silence with their own anxieties. And here's a breakdown of why this misunderstanding persists. So the forbidden knowledge tropes. So historically, Western religious institutions viewed many esoteric or hidden knowledge with suspicion. Because Kabbalah discusses the mechanics of creation, how God interacts with the world, critics misinterpret it as an attempt to play God or bypass religious authority. When I say critics, I'm talking about the committee of they that oversees religion, the religious programming. So in reality, Kabbalah is deeply rooted in monotheism and the strict fulfillment of ethical laws. So association with Western occultism. So in the 19th and 20th centuries, various non-Jewish secret societies like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, for example, they borrowed Kabbalistic terms such as the Tree of Life or the Sephiro and mixed them with tarot, astrology, and ritual magic. And the result of that was people who saw these occult groups using Kabbalistic terminology assumed that the source material was the same. So in the reality, the authentic Kabbalah is focused on Betul, which is self-nullification to the divine or ego death. And while occultism is often focused on the will, which is strengthening the ego's power over the world. So misinterpreting the other side. This actually, I do have 2 more videos. These are pretty good.
The Sitra Akra is both below and to the left. The left hand is considered the Sitra Akra. That's why they call it the left hand.
So we're talking about misinterpreting the other side. So the Sitra Akra
path. And the below, the underground, Malkus goes to the ground and is considered the highest. But what's underground isn't accepted. The underground, the Sitra Akra, the other side. So when you're dealing in a right-hand world and an above world and in a front world. The Siddhakra is also the back. So we're dealing in left, back, under, as opposed to right, front, and on top.
This old man, he's so funny.
You're dealing in half a world.
Right. So what he's saying is you can't just focus on what is above. This is why the term "as above, so below" exists. As your will on heaven, how's it go? Let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. But you have to acknowledge what is below to bring what is above.
Half of the cube. Half of the cube of space. So you have to understand how we've been controlled to see the world only in half. Only in a half perspective. Only see the light, but not the darkness.
See you later,
real
Aha.
secret is to catch
Aha, if you're still here, I just want to let you know you won fan of the day. Where is your screen name at? Where is he? That's all he had to go. So, Aha S888S Aha. That is quite a screen name. Reach out to producer Ryan.Lopez86 on Instagram or email us at Thirst Trap News. You will receive an autographed and lipstick kiss copy of tonight's show notes. So congratulations, Aha.
both. So I'm bringing you the understanding of this to examine what's called the Sitra Akra as a fulfillment for the other side of the Sitra Akra, the Ein Sof. The Ein Sof must include the Sitra Akra to be a complete entity. Without that, you're only fooling yourselves.
He cracks me up. He cracks me up. All right, here's one more video for you.
Kabbalistic imagery of the devil's kingdom, Sitra Achra, other side, depicts it as a shadowy, impure reflection of divine creation, a realm of spiritual impurity, darkness, and impurity, often personified by Samael and Lilith, featuring demonic hierarchies, distorted divine emanations, and monstrous figures, contrasting with God's pure Sephirot, with its goal being spiritual dissolution and deception rather than mere destruction. Key concepts and imagery. Sitra Achra, the other side. This is the primary term for the demonic realm, a negative mirror of the divine world, Sephirot, built from the leftover, unrefined energies of creation. Samael and Lilith. Samael, often equated with Satan, is seen as a fallen divine emanation, while Lilith is a prominent demonic figure, a seductress and a mother of demons, representing impurity and lust. Hierarchical structure. Like the divine world, the Sitra Achra has its own ranks, rulers, like Ashmedai/Asmodeus, and legions, Dybbuk, imps, operating in a corrupt, organized system. Impurity and disfigurement. Imagery often shows distorted, grotesque forms, darkness, sexual perversion, e.g., demons with serpentine features, monstrous offspring, and connection to death and decay. The broken aspect. It's a realm of fragmented divine light, a spiritual wasteland where spiritual forces of evil, principalities, powers, exert influence through the veils of reality, influencing human systems, cultures, and desires. Mythic figures. Beyond Samael and Lilith, other figures like the fallen angels, Azazel, Belial, Thammuz, appear, often depicted in grotesque or powerful forms, as seen in medieval art inspired by Kabbalistic themes, e.g., William Blake's illustrations. Function of the kingdom. Counterfeit. It's a dark parody of God's creation, designed to mislead humanity through lust, idolatry, and materialism. Spiritual warfare. It's a dynamic, active force that seeks to corrupt, enslave, and ultimately challenge divine order, operating through deception and spiritual bondage rather than just physical destruction.
All right. So, Kabbalistic texts do discuss the nature of evil, referred to as the Sitra Achra, which is the other side, or Klipot, which is the husks. The misconception here is that people browsing these texts see descriptions of demons or dark forces and assume the practitioners are worshiping them. But the reality is that Kabbalah teaches that these forces are merely concealment. They are the darkness that allows light to be recognized. The goal, meaning you can't define one without the other. The goal of a Kabbalist is to dissolve the darkness, not to commune with it. So in Kabbalah, the Sitra Achra, which is Aramaic for the other side, is the realm of impurity and evil, but it is not viewed as a power independent of divine. Instead, it's understood as a byproduct of the concealment of divine light, which is what a shadow is. It is the concealment of light. So you can't have darkness without light. You cannot define one without the other. So the key characteristics of the Sitra Achra are the hinder part of holiness. So it's described as the backside or the external will of the Creator. While holiness flows from God's countenance, his direct presence, the Sitra Achra receives only enough residue of light to exist, like a king throwing a scrap of food over his shoulders to an animal. It's parasitic in nature. It has no life of its own. It survives by capturing holy sparks and trapping them within the kelipot, or the shells or husks. The illusion of independence. So the defining trait of the Sitra Achra is its ego. It claims, I am and there's nothing else beside me, denying its source of the divine. So that's something Yahweh said. A necessary obstacle. It was created specifically to provide humanity with free choice. Without a side that obscures the truth, choosing good would have absolutely no spiritual value, because you wouldn't know what good is if you don't know what bad is. So the ultimate goal is transformation. So the work of a human is not to worship or fear the Sitra Achra, but to subdue and transform it by performing acts of goodness. We crack the husks and release it from trapped light, eventually causing the other side to dissolve back into the source of holiness. So, the matrix parallel here is anyone who could manipulate code like Neo was initially seen as a glitch or a threat. To those who don't understand the code, though, the ability to change reality looks like magic or devilry. That's what they taught you to look at it as, so you don't even attempt to try. But for the one who understands the code, it's simply math and mechanics. So the truth bomb here is that there's no shortcut to light. So why Kabbalah matters now? It's because we live in chaos. We live in fragmentation, and everyone is spiritually starving. So Kabbalah teaches integration, it teaches responsibility, and it teaches conscious creation. And it reminds us that we are co-creators, made in God's image, that what we do actually does matter cosmically. And so how to practically exit the matrix, this is what I'm going to leave you guys with, how to practically exit the matrix. Observe before reacting, okay? Question the narratives that induce fear. Speak with intention. Act ethically, even when no one else sees you. And choose truth over comfort. And there's a simple rule here. If something disconnects you from compassion, clarity, or conscience, it's part of the matrix. So I'm going to leave you with a closing reflection. Kabbalah isn't about knowing secrets. It's about becoming aligned. It's an invitation. Observe your thoughts. Watch your words. Choose actions that let light flow. Awakening is not rebellion. It's integration with God. It's responsibility. And you don't destroy the matrix. You outgrow it. So the matrix collapses the moment you realize it only works on people who don't follow who they are. And when you change yourself, you don't just change your life. You change the worlds above and below. So I hope you guys enjoyed tonight. It was a lengthy one. My mouth is tired. My body has been aching. I've been in such bad pain this whole time. So I'm just going to run and take a hot bath before laying in the bed. But I'm going to, over in Rumble Land, I am going to send you guys over to another show that has a nightcap title, and they are talking about philosophy over there. So if you're interested in listening more to similar topics, I'm going to raid that stream. And I love all you guys. We got to get the message out to Aha that he won Fan of the Day. I could have given it to so many of you. Sunny, you got in a little late. I loved the vibes, but Sunny, you were gunning for it there quick at the end, man. I know you don't know what Fan of the Day is, but come to my shows tomorrow. On the show at 9:00, I am interviewing Sean Stone, son of Oliver Stone. He has a documentary out that he's a filmmaker and director, and he's made a documentary called The RFK Legacy about the father-son duo there. And him and his father made this documentary. So we're going to talk about the Hollywood elites, the political elites, and his documentary. So please, tomorrow, tune in. Let's show my guest that our type of our vibes. Let's just show him what we do every night and make sure he has a good day. So Fan of the Day is where you just bring the energy to the show. You socialize, ask questions, bring the good vibes to the show and really just create a space for conversation. And by winning Fan of the Day, you get my autographed and lipstick kissed show notes sent to you. So that is what Fan of the Day is. And I love all of you. And with that, I bid you adieu.